Fascinating.
Well, hey there, live stream. Setting up for Coda Radio. We're doing two of them, actually. So I'm setting up for two Coda Radios. 289 and 290. Assuming that Michael Dominic shows up. You know, never know.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. It is. It is fascinating. I don't know what I'm going to do if Michael Dominic doesn't show up because I got two shows to record. So what the hell am I going to...
Mommy needs a joint.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, stand by as we set up. I'm just pushing the buttons right here, right now. Grinding the gears, if you will.
You know what really grinds my gears?
Nothing really. I'm good. I'm good. Just got to make sure I get everything all cleaned out. And I just need to know, will this be the marathon session that finally makes it through a YouTube copyright Python script? Finally!
I'm not going to dignify that with an answer.
Oh, well, I guess I don't get to find out. Anyways, stand by. Mr. Dominic should be en route. I'll double check here shortly, and then we'll be kicking things off. If you'd like to join us, discord.me/JupiterColony. You know, one of these days, we'll probably, on the Coda Radio program, take advantage of that Discord voice chat feature. Because we don't have, like, an established mumble system here on Coda Radio, so this is probably one of the best candidates to use the Discord chat. So we may do that in the near future. So discord.me/JupiterColony. There's a dedicated Coda Radio room in there. The IRC room is also still hopping, irc.geekshed. Actually, it's not really hopping, but it's holding in. It's holding steady. And a respectable hold. IRC has a lot in common with long-term Bitcoin investors today. They're holding. And irc.geekshed.net, # Jupiter Broadcasting. You can go in there, chat about the Coda Radio program, or like I said, discord.me/Colony. And here's dedicated to Coda Radio chat in there. Yes. I said hype. Yeah. You see there? I just said that if you're watching that. I just put that in there. Anyways, stand by.
OMG, OMG, OMG.
So it looks like he's battling dragons right now. So I'm going to take us back into headlines here. So yeah, you heard me kind of making a joke just now about it. Let's talk about this for a moment. Bitcoin. Bitcoin, guys. Holy freaking crap, right? Bitcoin has plunged below $11,000. It's down 44% from its record high. Let's go see what it is right now as I talk about this, because damn, this thing just changes so often. You gotta get the current price. Ooh, so Bitcoin. You know, corrections always happen. This is a Bitcoin thing, yeah. So it's at 13,000 right now. It started to slide yesterday. It hit 15,000 on Sunday. Let's see what today? No, Thursday. Geez, all my days are really kind of blurring together these days. So it hit 15,000, up from 19 on Thursday. But Bitcoin has crashed 30% 6 times in 2017. So it's, you know, a 44% crash is more aggressive than normal. but it's already back up. It's already bound. You can no longer classify it as a 44% crash. So it's crashed 6 times to at least it had a 30% loss in value. 30% loss in value 6 times in 2017. Each crash was followed by an increase of 76%, and then 237%, and then 183%, and then 165%, and then 152%. So Bitcoin basically takes 7 steps forward, 2 steps back. 7 steps forward, 2 steps back. And every time those 2 steps back comes along, it's a freak out. So, this is the 6th crash of 2017. This is pretty common in Bitcoin land. Okay. You're making me open up Telegram, Rikai. What are you doing to me, dude? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't know. It's a fucking focus, right? Well, I could do them right now on the stream in OBS, and they'll just sync to you. I'll try that. Cause fuck, you know. Do you know what I'm saying about that? So everybody on the live stream, I apologize for this, but I have to record ads for user error real quick. And I already tried to do them off air, so that way you didn't have to listen to me do extra ads. But I'm already on air, and Rika's trying to edit, and we had an issue with our... Remember I was just saying we were having some levels issues? Yeah, well, some of that shit's apparently still a problem. All right, I'm going to close Telegram now. Oh, he's still typing. All right, come on, Beardsley, come on. I want to get off Telegram so bad. See, when I'm on Telegram, it's even though I have my online availability limited, it's still enough that it cracks out there and people. No, it's okay. It's okay. Here we go. Okay. And then see what happens is when I get on there, I just get all of these things that come at me, and then it's very, very distracting. But it's okay. Yeah. So I'll just do these real quick, and then so I apologize if you're here to do Coder. See, the other thing is I need to switch mics because it's a different microphone. Let me see how this microphone levels are. Check 1 2 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Yeah, these are okay. All right, here we go. It's Coder Radio. Nope. User error. User error. User error. User error. User error. That's too loud. User error. User error. Yep, that's okay. User error. All right, here they're starting recording. DigitalOcean.com. Go to DigitalOcean.com, create your account, and then use our promo code of Authority and Power. Here's the thing. All one word, you smash it in that box, you apply it to your account, and you get $10 of credit. Oh, $10! That's so fancy! Don't be a noob. Go to DigitalOcean.com and look at their pricing. Now, y'all know my favorite machine is 3 cents an hour because I like performance. 2 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs, 40 gigabytes of that SSD. It's all SSD goodness over there at DigitalOcean.com, and 3 terabytes of transfer. Now, they got a machine as low as $5 a month. Now, you get the $10 credit, right? Use the promo code, here's the thing. You get the $10 credit, and then you make a server anywhere in the world because they got data centers all over the place. It's pretty great. They got Amsterdam, Germany, Singapore, London, Toronto, New York City, San Francisco, and then they have multiple data centers in some of those cities too. It's so cool because then you can, with one button, deploy an entire stack of GitLab, Ubuntu, and all that stuff, or just deploy a bare system or even FreeBSD, and you can get started in less than 55 seconds. If you want to go boss level, they have a very simple API you can use to manage all of this stuff. Lots of open source code is already written. It's good stuff. And they have a frequently asked question they just posted a few days ago about using private networking. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about private networking. I mean, I don't talk about it enough, but it's really cool. It's a great feature, DigitalOcean. If you've got more than a couple of rigs, you might want to check it out. And they just posted like a few days ago a frequently asked questions in their community section. Start by going to DigitalOcean.com and then use our promo code. Here's the thing. You get a $10 credit. You support user air. And more importantly, you can mess around with like that $5 rig 2 months for free. DigitalOcean.com. Promo code. Here's the thing. Last.ting.com. You know you need to check this out. You know, you're looking at your budget, you're like, man, you know what I could use? A new computer. I could use a memory upgrade, a new video card. Well, if I stop paying out the arse for unbelievably crazy wireless plans, I could afford those things. Last.ting.com. A smarter way to do mobile. It's just what you use is what you pay. Minutes, messages, and megabytes. What you use is what you pay. $6 for the line, and then you got Uncle Sam's cut in there, and then that's it. You're done. You're done. You're done. You know what? If you want to have a couple of phones, it's just $6 for each of them. And then it's just your usage on top of that. Oh, you got Wi-Fi. Well, then you're not using data. You're making calls over Telegram, or you're one of the kids using the WhatsApp out there. You're not using any cellular data, are you? You're on Wi-Fi. It's like you're cheating. It's like you're getting away with something, but it's their business model. You know, they're not out there digging holes in the ground and putting huge towers in and fighting with, the Verizon and AT&T, they don't go put towers in themselves. You know, it's not like some division of their company. It's entire businesses that are dedicated to the business of installing cell towers. And I've had one as a client. And you know what the majority of the business is? The legal department, because they got to interface with the city and the state and the federal level. And they have environmental laws and they have size ordinance and all these crazy little, like, let's make it look like a tree ordinances that they interface with, and they just like offload it to a whole nother. They can't even be bothered to deal with it. And Ting went like next level. See, Ting's backed by Tucows, so they kind of like understand how IP networking works, and they just went next level. And they built like a virtual carrier on top of multiple networks, CDMA and GSM. You bring a device, because they got tons of device support. Check their BYOD page. And then you'll get a $25 credit, and you can try out Ting for a while. I brought like an old clunker just to like put my toe in the Ting waters, and then I was blown away. And then they became a sponsor, and now I'm like 3 or 4, I don't even know, like 200 years into using Ting now. I think I've been using Ting longer than they've been Ting. Last.ting.com. Okay, sending that to you, Beard. Sending that to you. Doobity-doo-doo-doo. Doobity-doo-doo-doo. Last on here. All right, guys. Let's do okay, hold on. I'm going to watch the IRC in the Discord. I don't know where anybody's at. But let's do a little AB, and you tell me which microphone you prefer, okay? So, this is the microphone that you hear me on Linux Unplugged. This is the Linux Unplugged microphone. Linux Unplugged microphone. This is the Linux Action News microphone. This is the Linux Action News microphone. Linux Action News microphone. This is the Linux Action News microphone. This is the Linux Action News microphone. This is the Linux Unplugged microphone. This is the Linux Unplugged microphone. This is the Linux Unplugged microphone. This one right here is the Linux Unplugged microphone. Tell me which one in the IRC or the Discord you like better. Linux Unplugged microphone. The Linux Unplugged microphone. Linux Action News microphone. The Linux Action News microphone. This is the Linux Action News. This is Coda Radio, episode 289. This is Coda Radio, episode 289. That's actually, there's a pretty big difference right there. I can hear that. I'll do one more. This is the Linux Unplugged microphone. This is Coda Radio, episode 289. And this will be the Linux Action News microphone. This is Coda Radio, episode 289. This is Coda Radio. This is Coda Radio. This is Coda Radio. This is Coda Radio, episode 289. All right, now this is the Linux Action News microphone. I'm going to switch over to the Unplugged. This is Coder Radio, episode 289. I think I like the Linux Action. It's hotter, so I need to tweak it a little bit. I think if I tweak the Linux Action News microphone a little bit, I think it might be a better one overall. So I think I need to bring down a couple areas here. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, and I need to check my gate, because the gate is probably not up high enough. This is Coder Radio. That's a little better. This is Coder Radio. Yeah, okay. I think now this is the Linux Action News microphone. I think this is the one to use for this show. Oh, God. I heard that beard. Rikai. No audio output on the video stream. Let's do what? No, that's not talking about what I just, that's not, he's not even talking to me, and I'm talking to him. I'm losing it. I'm like an old man losing it over here. Oh! All right. Oh, so I heard from Mr. Dominic. He is en route. He was just, like I said, he was just delayed. So we'll be starting soon. That actually gave me a chance to record those ads again, so.
While you're laughing, the hackers are dropping malware into your system.
Reclaiming my time.
Welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Hello, Skype call testing lady. I'm checking to see if you're warbly and wobbly, or if it's okay now. Are you warbly and wobbly, or are you feeling good? Skype? Skype call testing lady. I'm checking to see if you're warbly and wobbly, or if it's okay now. Are you warbly?
If you are able to hear your own voice, then you have configured Skype correctly. If you hear this message, but not your own voice, then something is wrong with your audio recording settings. Please check your microphone and microphone settings, or visit skype.com for more.
So the thing is, you hear how much worse Skype at compression? God, Skype compression is just horrible. It's just horrible. And then the problem, I think, with that their podcasting is then you recompress it even more.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
I have no idea what we're talking about.
Jeez, you missed the reclaiming my time meme, huh? Jeez, you been busy or what?
You could say that, yeah.
Oh, I forgot my gin.
I have nothing, so that's fine.
Oh, what kind of holiday special is this, dude?
I could have coffee as soon as my manservant shows up.
Well, I feel like we are going to let the audience down now, but it's okay.
Well, there's no way for me to fix this.
No, it's... I mean, I have gin, but we can't have one of us be 2 sheets in. You know, that's...
Why? Isn't that like every week?
Hey, got you.
In fact, that would be the special part.
You're earning a bell already, dude. You're already earning... All right. Well, give me a minute here. Let's see. I'm really proud of you. Did you earn that bell right before we even hit record? That's impressive. Oh yeah, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. Okay, so here's the question I have for you. Are you comfortable with the amount of Apple fucking shit in the first doc? Because they're the only company really making news right now, in a way.
You know what? I learned this from Santa. It's Christmas. They can go fuck themselves. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. And then, okay, so I'm trying to figure out, what did I fuck up? I'm trying to figure out where the ad should go. And let's do Eric Schmidt first. And then, okay. Yeah. And then, anybody, let's see here. Dude, almost every one of these tabs that I'm opening up is autoplaying video. It's causing, I have to go through all these fucking tabs and pause the video, or else we're going to have random audio in our show, which is really frustrating. Makes it take way longer. Okay, Linux Academy. All right, I'll go grab my gin, and then I'll be ready. I guess I'll just drink it out of the bottle. I don't really have anything to, I didn't really plan this out.
There you go.
So that's good. All right, well, good. All right. Oh, I bet you know what, I have a little more. We got to get some, hey, some of you bastards get over there in the Coda Radio Discord, because I don't want that shit to be boring as hell on the live stream. You know what I'm saying? So hook a brother up with your Chattersons on the their Discord. All right, so I'm setting that, and then I'm gonna go grab my gin skis. Do you need anything? You want to grab yourself a coffee before we start? I could like play a tune for a minute while you.
No, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. All right. Well then.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, get him the fuck out of here. That guy. He's always in here. Get him out of here. He's trying to get us in trouble. All right. I'll be back in like a hot minute. I'm just gonna go grab some shit, so it won't take me that long. This is the last. Nope, that's not true at all, actually. Well, I've gone from this was the last show of mine, these are the last two shows of mine from the year, to this is just the last two shows of this week, and I still have 2 shows next week, so it's not nearly as much as a celebration as it was. More reasons to drink. Okay. Hey, do you have anything you want to throw at the end of the show? The end of the show is a little light. I don't have quite enough padding after the Academy ad. Do you have any suggestions or anything you want?
I feel like the show's not going to be as light as you think, looking at the stock.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking at 89, right? 289?
See.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'll be able to work another ad in somewhere here.
Okay. I trust you. Well, who put that in there? All right, I got my gin. Ooh, gin is just like a Christmas tree in a bottle. Oh, when you don't have it. Ooh, I could have at least grabbed like some lemon juice or something, for fuck's sake. Coda Radio. Coda Radio. Let's check our levels real quick.
I crave ZFS.
Okay. All right, Mr. Dominic. I will take my shot.
Let's do it.
I'll take my shot sometime during the show, and we'll get started. Audience, if you'd like to bang suggest, I would much appreciate it. And help us title. You can do it in Discord or the damn IRC. I don't give it. I don't give it. Stand by. In a 3. In a 2. Well, yeah, okay. I'm almost ready. I just realized there's a mic on in the room. I'll fight you, you bastard! I know you're in here! Oh! This is Coda Radio, episode 289 for December 22nd-ish, 2017. Hello everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and its related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week, like a man who just got back from fighting dragons, a little tattered, but ready for the show, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike!
The software developers need to end.
What? I'm sorry, did you know you're one of them? You are,
No, I get that, but I'm in denial and I'm on a little island somewhere.
Oh, you've already made preparations, I see. Is like Professor X on this island with you? Is it like, I mean...
Let's just say all the disappointed heroes are on this island with me.
I thought you would be all happy, and I thought this would be a great day for you. You know, Santa Trump gave you your big holiday gift. I thought you were going to be like all jazzed up.
You're triggering me. I see what you're doing.
I was just responding. We got a couple of people who wrote some pretty good responses. One of them's on the subreddit. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, you can jump into that if you want.
No, it's okay. Let's do this. Let's pull back the curtain. Look up the Komodo here for a second. What is going on is Mike and I have gotten together on a Friday when we really have, by no right, are ready to do the show again. But we just missed each other that much. No, actually, we're getting ready to record our shows for the holidays. And so, as is per tradition, Mr. Dominic is supposed to pour himself a beverage. And I have myself a beverage, and we sit around and we do a couple of shows instead of just one. And by the second show, we're generally a little looser. So I feel like we should save it for the second show, because I have myself, I'm going to do a shot of London Dry Gin here at some point during the show when you're talking. So I'll be ready. That'll be my holiday.
Right. And I will be having coffee.
I know.
Although I did have a martini lunch, so.
Oh, good. Okay, so you pre-showed a little bit. I like that.
I pre-showed, yes.
You know me. I got to read every tweet. You know, every automated and real tweet that comes from Michael Dominic.
I don't do that anymore. Although I did learn from YouTube that I'm a Microsoft shill now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, is that a thing?
I find that amazing sitting next to my MacBook and System 76 laptop.
I actually,
okay.
I don't even really think, I mean, I can't think of anyone in the popular media space that's a shill for Microsoft. Like, Paul Thurrott calls them on quite a bit of stuff. I think Paul Thurrott just has
even Microsoft followers are like...
Yeah, like Mary Jo Foley, again, same thing. I think they're both very level-headed Microsoft analysis, people who just have a deep understanding of how Microsoft works. And so sometimes they can give you a reason for something, and people say, "Oh, you're being an apologist." What happened? What was the cause of this horrible claim?
The comment was on the Everybody Needs a Barb episode, I think. Although it would make a lot more sense for the Windows Linux one, right?
Yeah, right. So what bothers you more?
Azure.
What bothers you more, though?
Azure.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that is true. What bothers you more, Linux apologist, Microsoft apologist, or Apple apologist? And do you think soon people will get labeled as Google and Amazon? Yeah, probably. They probably already are.
They already do. Yeah.
Like I've just never been labeled those ones. True. Good point. Yeah. Okay. That's a good example of an apologist, actually.
Right. Because he's actually an apologist, right? I mean, do you remember which is the one of the last Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies with that weird-looking Dutch dude?
Was that Goldeneye or Never
it was
Die?
After Goldeneye, when he kills that ugly-looking dude and
Die Another Day. I can't help it. I like the Brosnan Bonds. That was my Bond.
I like Pierce Brosnan.
That was my Bond. You know, that's my age range.
Yeah, but it's mine too, right? But there's the line, "I'm just a professional doing a job." He gets shot in the face, by the way. But yeah, that's it. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't get it. I mean, if a Windows ME computer did the job better, I would be using that.
Can I tell you that 2017 has been the biggest year of reckoning for me on this?
Go.
I didn't appreciate or psychologically have a complete understanding of the momentum that LAS put in my life, where when I did Linux Action Show, I needed to live Linux every single day just to do the show. Like that's just to get like content and to have experiences to talk about and to try new software. Like there was no way around it. You ran Linux every day, and so it was Linux first, and then, oh God, if it can't be done with Linux, well, how the hell am I going to pull this off? What hack? What compromise do I have to make? And then after I ended LAS, even though I'm still doing LUP and Linux Action News, which are solely Linux shows, I started reevaluating everything on its actual merits, and I felt like all of a sudden I was way more in alignment with how the audience evaluates technology. Like, a portion of them are open source and Linux only, and nothing else will do. But the vast, vast majority, and that's why we have more people downloading on Windows than Linux and Mac, right? The vast majority of them evaluate each thing on its technical merits and at what solution it provides to them. And I found myself throughout all of 2017 doing that. Every single time, desktop Linux, applications, editing software, home automation stuff, everything had to now be better. Like being Linux and open source wasn't a qualifier enough anymore. It had to really compete on its own merits as a complete solution. And that has been a huge, it's been a huge relief. It's been a huge shift for me, and it's been I don't know why, but it has been a giant weight off my shoulders. It has been a huge weight. And the other thing that I really am happy about is in spite of all of that, in this total reevaluation of everything I use, through all of it, I wound up back on Linux. I just wound up on 1604 and Unity 7. But I still, like, I didn't abandon the desktop. But now I'm like, well, shit, like Windows 7 with classic theme, and when you go into like the performance settings and you can optimize for raw performance instead of the way it looks, it's inarguably the fastest operating system I've ever used in terms of application and window load time and close time and minimize, and just like the UI speed can't be beat. Now, application load time, I think Windows 10 has it beat, but other than that, like, it's just, if you need to run proprietary Skype, there's no better operating system, and that's just the truth. It has the best sound, it has the best upstream vendor support, and this is a Windows 7 machine that you and I are talking on, and it is a rock. It is a absolute rock. And while I have Skype that completely trashed my sound system on Linux recently, and I have one of my audio interfaces just goes away, just completely disappears sometimes, and it is just, if you just listen to this week's Ask Noah, it sounds really weird because it's the same issue. He got hit with it, and it just hits us. And because it's on a machine that you're not listening to a direct feed, you have no idea until you're done that it's a problem, and it completely destroys an episode of a show. It's his least downloaded show because of that audio problem. And it's really frustrating because he does such hard work on that, and then one piece of equipment goes out, and then it turns out, oh, well, if I was running Windows, that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have lost that episode. Well, that changes everything. It's been a huge year for me, 2017, that way. I mean, predominantly, I've remained on Linux, but for the first time in 6-7 years, I have a Windows box in the studio again. One Windows box.
I've been having dreams, Chris. Can I tell you about my dream?
Yes, please. I love hearing about... Actually... Just really a quick sidebar. I get like baby panic attacks when my family tells me about their dreams. My fiance, my kids, like when they take 10 minutes of my day to tell me about oh, good. I feel like the worst person ever because they're so excited to tell me, and I have nearly an anxiety attack after about 5 minutes into it. Anyways, but I do want to hear about your dream.
Well, because my dream, is some sort of setup.
Yeah. It's worth my time.
I'm wandering in an ice-cold field. There's mountains. I'm freezing to death. I'm looking at crash logs.
Oh boy.
I'm stumbling. I'm falling. Everything is just, there's tears running down my face. And then in the distance, I see movement atop a hill.
Is it Ryan Sipes?
No. He's hanged on a tree somewhere as a traitor. I love you, Ryan. Just kidding. I see what looks like some sort of cat on a hill as the snow starts to come down.
Oh, okay.
Telling me,
okay.
you know exactly where this is going. Telling me that it wasn't always this hard. You will one day climb this Mount Sierra. You will one day overcome and be back to the home of the leopard. Dare I say, the snow leopard.
Is this your long way of telling me you installed Snow Leopard on one of your systems?
If I could get away with running Snow Leopard in production, that is all I would run.
Yeah, that's the Windows 7 advantage is you can still install it today, right? I mean,
Mac doesn't even run on the hardware. Good luck.
Yeah, and if you look at the iMac Pro, I bet you with that T2 chip in there, it will never go below the current point release of High Sierra. It can never go below that.
So you can turn that off. And by the way,
you can turn it off, the encryption and the secure boot, but it's still the controller for the SSD. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's probably no driver in lower versions of macOS for that SSD controller.
You can get the current version, but you can turn off the auto update thing, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, whatever the version of High Sierra is, that's your minimum viable Mac. But yeah, I've been feeling the same way that everything is getting progressively crappier. And I just want to wander into the Himalayas and chill with the snow leopard.
Well, not everything, though, if you think about it. So I was reading your tweet here about, how you were spending, your whole life in JavaScript since we talked last. But switching over to
That is not a happy tweet. I just want to put some context.
I know, but there is, if you look at it, the thing I take away from this is Visual Studio Code. That's what you're using, and you're changing habits. I guess where I'm going with this is look at Canonical, look at Microsoft and Amazon this year. They really overall got better. They got a lot better. Just those three examples. So not everything's gone to shit, but the shit that we use to do our shit has gone to shit. See how profound
that was shitception. Hang on, wait. What?
I wish I had that bong handy. Bong. What I'm saying is,
did you already pound half that bottle of gin? Wait, which?
We are shot one in. Well, no. What I'm saying is the stuff you use to build the things is getting worse. The desktop operating system, the Chrome browser, a lot of the little components that we rely upon to build our whatever output is are getting worse. But then at the same time, some of the services that we put them on are they're getting better, and they're improving, and they're making decisions long term that are going to make them even better. And so not everything is getting horrible, but ironically, the very tools we need to take advantage of the stuff that's getting better have gotten worse. Do you follow me? The desktops are getting worse. The desktop applications are getting worse. That's what you need to build applications for the cloud. Honestly, with the exception of Windows 10. Windows 10, I think, has gotten a lot better.
I was just going to slap you with my Windows dong here because it's only Mac and Linux that are getting worse.
Well,
right, Windows is getting progressively better.
I think still, long-term, Linux desktop is looking the best. I think long-term Linux desktop is looking the best.
I don't know. But, for me, I know people are going to hate me on this, but for me, Linux desktop does equal some form of Ubuntu.
Yes.
And they wasted a lot of time with that Wayland.
Wayland? You mean Unity?
I mean, whatever. Unity.
Well, no, it matters because Wayland's going to be even worse than the transition to Unity was, I think. So
just the fact that there's and I get this is very anti-Linux. I mean, this is I had a comment at the little System 76 roundtable, and I got you're a Mac guy. Options are bad. People don't need options. You should give me a workstation that works and that I don't need to give a shit about. Which is, to their credit, what System 76 does do. But the idea that I can change the window manager and that the window manager will be slightly shitty depending on my configuration is really bad.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you use Ubuntu proper or Elementary OS or Solus,
right. If you use one of the major ones, you're generally okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, let me say this though. Long term, I really think that I really do think that even after the Wayland transition, that the thing is, you know me, you and I have talked about this enough. My view is that eventually the tug of the strategy tax becomes annoying enough. It's just constant friction that keeps throwing roadblocks in front of developers' workflows because Microsoft or Apple wants to do something crazy for this next year, and it just gets annoying after a while. And now that Canonical is part of the GNOME advisory board, and now that they're developing and working upstream with GNOME, and they're shipping GNOME, you have Red Hat, SUSE, Dell, HP, Canonical, and those are just the ones I can name on one hand, that are all working to contribute towards GNOME now. And there's no singular commercial interest that is driving any particular feature of GNOME other than, can we build a good developer workstation? That is the true singular focus of this conglomerate. It will take forever. It's more like evolution than it is immaculate conception. So it takes longer, and we have to go through Wayland, and we have to get hardware support there, and we have to get new drivers and all of that stuff that's going to be horrible. But I have to believe long term, because this group effort is insulated from any one particular corporate failure. There's no singular strategy tax. There's no singular visionary coming along saying we're going to build the digital hub of your future. It's kind of this collection of effort that just kind of slowly produces a very usable desktop. And in my view, that has to win out long term. It just seems impossible. It doesn't. It's like Linux. It might take 25 years, but eventually it's just everywhere.
The problem with any argument that says it might take X years is that the world, your enemies, your competitors, whatever.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Don't like sit still and wait for you.
That's fair.
Right. I mean, I don't want to harken back to 2 episodes ago, but if you haven't used Windows since like Windows XP or Windows Vista or even Windows 7, I'd argue, Windows 10 is really good.
Yeah.
And like, if I didn't need to compile iOS apps, I can't honestly say that I would still be looking at this MacBook Pro. And by the way,
we say that. Yeah. You know what? Both you and I are suffering. I think we have to acknowledge this a little bit from the grass is greener, because a lot of times when you try out an OS for 1 or 2 weeks, that first 2-3 week, even sometimes a month, I know you know this, but I'm just reminding you that first month or so is like, oh man, it does it this way? That is way better. Like, I'll tell you, like, I still am telling people, the way Windows 10 does window snapping, when you snap one window to the side and then it exposes all the other windows, and then you select one and it pops in, and then you get this big fatty bar, like if it's designed for a tablet, because it was, where you can slide both windows together and they're locked together, their proportions are locked. That is enough where sometimes when Windows 10 accidentally starts booting on my machine at home, you know what? I just need to run Slack in a web browser. That's all I need. I need Chrome or Firefox. Actually, I'm using Firefox. And
I'm using Firefox.
And Slack. And Windows 10 does it great. And so there's simple things in Windows 10 that when you see them, you're like, oh, geez, that's way better than the way we've implemented snapping on Linux. That's so much nicer.
Oh, no, it's significantly better.
Right. But.
And Mac doesn't have it, right? Like there's something like almost sort of like it, but it sucks, right?
Yeah, yes, yeah. Yeah, that is, yeah. But there are things that OS X handles really simply, or Linux just handles because of the kernel, that we take for granted.
Let me just give one to OS X. Mac is really smart about, hey, you have a monitor. And it's like, I might think, like it assumes the monitor is to the right of your laptop, but there's a very easy way to fix that. Where on Linux, that's kind of hard and annoying. And if the resolutions are different on the monitors, you get all kinds of weird things when you drag windows from one to the other. Aliasing. Yep. I mean, you've bitched about the aliasing stuff in Unity and GNOME, and it's just like, on Mac, it doesn't care, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, then I will just redraw the entire window, right?
Yeah, you can tell. I think if you listen back to this year's shows, you and I are mulling over a lot of this stuff, probably to an annoying degree of the audience, although except for people that have also gone through this or are going through it.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm saving it for the next show, which is approximately 40 minutes, because my year in review is going to be great. It's going to be just like Luke's.
Okay. All right. You know what? Let's table it, because I think we've done enough of this.
But I did want to add like one piece to it, though, if I can. So I know we were going to talk about the Apple stuff, but there's an interesting parallel between this entire OS conversation that people both love and hate at the same time, and what has happened to developer tools.
I completely agree.
Right, particularly things like Electron, things like React, things like Xamarin. And maybe we should save it for the next show. It's up to you. Do you want to do this, or do you want to do the Apple stuff now, and we'll do this in the next show?
I almost think we should, because we've already gone into the Apple stuff. Plus, we have a bunch of feedback on that.
Let's do the Apple stuff. Okay.
And
so
then if
so
you know,
289 Apple, 290s.
Yeah.
Sad realizations.
Perfect. So here's the thing: 289. It's not. This isn't going to be an Apple circle jerk, but there's a bunch of new stuff. There is some feedback.
Drop your trousers.
What did you say?
Drop your trousers.
Oh,
sorry.
All right. I'm not going to apologize for it. This is based on what we've gotten back.
All right. Listen, it is December 22nd. The only tech company that's had any news, by the way, most of it's negative, has been Apple.
I have some news.
You have news? I would love to hear news.
I am.
But I'd love an ad first.
Oh, God damn, you're a pro. DigitalOcean.com. Go over to DigitalOcean.com and use our promo code CODERDIGITAL. Now you can get started with a $10 credit at DigitalOcean. You can set up a droplet in less than 55 seconds. A droplet is DigitalOcean's term for essentially a VPS machine that you get. But think of it more as portable infrastructure. You can move things around, you can upgrade things, you can transfer between accounts, you can add storage. So it is a droplet, because it's more than what you normally conceptualize in a service like this, especially when I get to the pricing. But first, whatever you deploy DigitalOcean, keep in mind it's going to have SSD storage. Everything's going to be super, super fast, and it'll be easy to attach more storage. They have monitoring and alerting where you can get metrics and performance, not only indicators, but alerts when things are down, and load balancing as a service, a fully managed service that works right out of the box to distribute incoming traffic and increase your site and applications availability. Talk about looking like a boss. Lightning fast networking, 40 gigabits into each single hypervisor. Data centers all over the world, but look at the pricing. For $5 a month, you can get started. Now that's where the Coder Digital promo code makes a lot of sense, because you get a $10 credit. So for $5 a month, you could run 2 of these things, or you could for 1 month, or you could run 1 for 2 months. Oh, look at me with the math. I did it, everybody. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code CoderDigital. But really, you want to have some fun? I mean, all of these things are crazy fast. Actually, dude, I'm not even gonna. I was gonna say go deploy one with like 200 gigs of RAM and then use a RAM disk and have some fun. But actually, go deploy the $5 a month one, and just see what Linux can do, and see what you can do with DigitalOcean's infrastructure. You get 512 megs of RAM, 1 virtual CPU, 20 gigs of SSD, and a terabyte of transfer. Oh, 512 megs of RAM? I would never even put that in my machine. Try it. It's amazing. It is incredible. When I first started DigitalOcean, all I deployed was the $5 a month droplets. Now my favorite is the 3 cents an hour. You get 2 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs, 40 gigabyte SSD, and 3 terabytes of transfer. Develop locally and deploy globally. They have data centers all over the world. Interfaces that are, it's perfect. They're perfect, because if you're a pro, if you've been doing virtual machines since virtual machines were a thing on System 390s, then you're gonna have no problem getting through this interface. But if you've never even set up a server, you've never even booted a server, you're gonna find this interface approachable, usable, and understandable. It's amazing. And I think it's actually an API client too, which, God, if I don't love that and respect that. DigitalOcean.com. Go over there, sign up, and then use our promo code CoderDigital. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. So, I very much, I view, like, when you launch a new product, when you launch something like Alice, it is in a lot of ways similar, and I hope you don't find this to be demeaning, but I feel like it's in a lot of ways it's very similar to launching a new podcast, because I have,
makes sense.
You know, there's something to create, there's a format, you have art, you have to work with a designer, you have like companies you might even interact with for the launch, and like there's then there's the host, and then there's the people behind the scenes producing, and then you have back-end infrastructure that you have to build to host the show. Sometimes you try your best, and especially around the holidays, there can sometimes just be compromises that come up that you go, oh God, I would never have, if I could have avoided this, I never would have done it this way. And we were really walking that line with the new TechSnap, but everybody really came together, and the new infrastructure really kind of clicked into place that we've been developing for a while. And my version, my current skills on editing have sort of evolved to another level, and it just all kind of came together. And 2 weeks ago, we rebooted the TechSnap program on the network. Wes and I are now the primary hosts. We'll be talking to Dan and Alan as the show goes on, but it's a total reboot. It's like it's like if you started over from a whole new code base. Literally, we're building a minimum viable product right now. We're recreating how we publish it. We're redoing how we prep for it. We're redoing how we record it. It's completely redone how we edit it. It's how the links are done. Every single aspect is completely new. It's a totally new product, and I wasn't sure if we were going to get it all together and get it out. And now we've just done 2 weeks, and I think the second episode was even better than the first episode, and I was pretty proud of the first episode. So I'm kind of I don't know what's the expression, Cloud 7 or whatever. I'm pretty excited right now, Cloud 9. And we just did an episode on network namespaces, and I thought I should mention it here because Wes was a pretty well-liked host on this show. And so if you miss hearing from Wes, go check out the new show. We just did an episode on network namespaces, which is something that Wes has quite a bit of experience with. It's been around for a while. BSD has an equivalent, and I've never really needed to use them, but huge for application developers. The things you can do with network namespaces on Linux, you could really, really, really get a lot of benefit out of this episode. If you need to simulate network connectivity, separate networks, you need to troubleshoot things in low bandwidth environments, anything like that, you can use network namespaces on Linux. It's all baked in, and Wes does a deep dive on the new TechSnap program, episode 349. You can go to techsnap.systems/349, or just go to techsnap.systems. 348 is when we rebooted. That's the new format. That's the new show. And then 349 is sort of okay, here's our second attempt, and we're going to keep iterating at it. We're also because the podcast is a product, right? That's the end product is the podcast. So this show has been retooled to not embrace, but take advantage of the modern podcast player, because pretty much everybody who listens to audio podcasts is doing so through some sort of podcast app now on their phone, which wasn't the case when we launched Coda Radio or TechSnap. That's all changed. And so now everybody wants all of the show notes. They want all of the links in the podcast app, which sounds obvious to say that to anybody who listens to podcasts. I understand that. But TechSnap was launched before there were podcast apps. So that wasn't a requirement because there weren't any podcast apps. And so not only are we doing that now, which took a total retooling of how we do our feeds, how we input notes, all of that, but we're also doing chapter markers with time coding and hyperlinks and changing album art to give visuals of what we're talking about while we talk about it. And which is, I think, what people expect now. And it's so great because when you have an hour-long show, there's everything's broken out, every single topic. So if you hate, if we could do it for this show, it would take a total retooling. But if you hated the Apple stuff, you could just skip ahead because everything is itemized out with a hyperlink that's relevant to here's additional information on what we're talking about. And you just have to have a podcast player that supports it. And anyways, I'm just super pumped because sometimes we relaunch or sometimes we launch a new podcast and it's like a 60% hit. This, while it is a minimum viable podcast, I think I'm pretty happy with it. I want to give it a plug here because specifically episode 349 is very valuable for people that need to do local testing, and you need to test network connectivity. Even if you're building sites, you want to isolate a browser, you want to send just one application through a VPN so you can test things remotely or externally, I should say. Say you want just Firefox to go out through a VPN interface and all your other stuff to go out your regular network interface. This episode addresses that. So it's techsnap.systems/349. So thank you for letting me go on about that. You're
very cool. Most important question. Is there still an Alan at JupiterBroadcasting.com email account?
Oh, yeah. Well, he's still doing BSD now, and he's going to come on the TechSnap program. So
continue to send your hate mail there,
and
PHP users.
And the rumor has it he's going to be, because he said so, he'll be at Linux Fest Northwest. So
do you know where I will never be?
Linux Fest Northwest?
Because it always conflicts with my son's birthday.
Gosh, I wish I actually would very much like to come to Florida. So I've been there once before, but I don't.
We'll talk about it next episode.
Okay.
You really don't. No.
All right. Well,
I tell you something. You better hit that bottle before 290. I'm just letting you know.
Okay. All right. So before we get into Eric Schmidt, I want to get to the feedback. It came in from Pinky Pooja, which is got to be in the top 3. He says, I recently threw High Sierra with APFS 2 on one of my old 2.5-inch SSDs in my PC just to see how it would run. I used
Nightmare.
I remember I specifically solicited this. I'm like, are people still doing Hackintoshes with High Sierra? Last week. He says, I use the Tony Mac tools and it boots from Refined from my Linux NVMe drive without any hackery. By the way, Refined, which is REFIND, is awesome. I highly recommend it. It was fairly painless other than typical Wi-Fi sound video issues. It took a couple of configuration attempts in MultiBeast. MultiBeast is a Hackintosh like Respin, I guess you could say. And it took a bit of tinkering with boot flags and BIOS settings. Yeah, okay. So this is essentially my experience. If you get compatible Intel hardware and you set the right BIOS settings, like turn off some legacy stuff, it's essentially make everything be modern. That's what you had to do to get Hackintoshes to work a while ago. Refind, REFIND. I want to mention that again because that is also a tool you can use just to dual boot Linux and Mac OS or triple boot Linux, Mac OS, and Windows on a MacBook Pro or whatever. This is a great, great tool. This is one that I use on my MacBook 2013, late 2013 edition, where I dual boot Mac OS 10 and Arch. And I don't know why. Maybe it's the bootloader built into the UEFI, or whatever Mac calls it, open firmware or whatever they call it. But I updated that old 2013 MacBook Pro to High Sierra, and I can still boot into Arch with no problem. So Refind is big double down endorsement by both Pinky Pooja and me. He says he's even running optical audio, which is amazing. So he's got, a fiber optical audio, and macOS recognizes his UPS and auto shuts down out of the box. No stupid crappy cyber power driver required like on Windows or Linux. Wi-Fi doesn't work. It's an Atheros chipset, if I remember correctly, so I don't use Wi-Fi. He's doing this again on a desktop. A GTX 1070 video card, an i770 Kaby Lake CPU. It's a Asus ROG Z270 Mini ITX board. So if you want to do this, you get the Asus ROG 270 Mini ITX, and it would supposedly work. He says, also, I was surprised that NVIDIA provided good up-to-date drivers for Mac OS for some of their recent cards, probably because external GPUs are now a thing, and they want to cash in on what the new MacBook Pros. Yeah, no, I don't think Pinky Poo. I don't think it's the eGPU market on MacBooks. That can't be more than what, 50,000, 100,000 units a year. I doubt that's why NVIDIA is doing it. It's because the new modular MacBook Pro, or the new modular Mac Pro, is going to have NVIDIA cards. Mark my words, early 2018 prediction right there. It's going to be in the modular Mac Pro. And you know what?
That seems pretty obvious, right? If Apple wants to be serious in VR and AR, they're gonna need NVIDIA.
Exactly. And NVIDIA even hired a full-time Mac OS driver developer, and I don't think they would do that unless there was going to be an incoming revenue stream. But overall, he says, if you have a compelling reason to use Mac OS and there aren't any Macs that you like, you might as well try it. Pros have been clamoring for a couple of years for an updated Mac Pro. And I agree. That is better than I expected with High Sierra. It just wasn't going to happen. So I agree. If it's still doable, why not give it a shot? I don't know. Honestly, in 2017, 2018, for video production, if it's worth it. But if you need to run Xcode, it might just be worth it. Let us know. This is an area where we get a lot of questions that Mike and I don't have firsthand experience with anymore. I used to run several Hackintoshes, and it sounds like it's pretty similar to how it used to be. He didn't touch on updates, OS updates, but let us know. Before we move on, Mr. Dominic, let's just take a break from all the Apple shit for a second. What do you think? You good with that? And let's talk Google. Let's talk your favorite Googler, Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt.
I love him.
Eric Schmidt is stepping down as an executive chairman. Hold on a second. Let's do a thought experiment. You ready? Let's do a little thought experiment. Just to see how you interpret this.
Oh.
Breaking news here. Eric Schmidt stepping down as the chairman of Alphabet. What is the first thought that comes to your mind?
He's going to run for president.
Oh, God. That was not my first thought. My first thought was that he touched somebody.
Oh, of course he did.
Yeah, he seems really creepy. But he's going to transition to a technical advisor role. Eric Schmidt, a technical advisor. Okay. I wasn't going to make fun of Eric Schmidt until I read that. Eric Schmidt is a bureaucrat. Eric Schmidt runs Alphabet for one singular reason.
Because he's a G-man.
He has the best contacts with the government until recently. Now that a conservative government is in power, he is losing his influence. And that's what it comes down to, is he doesn't have influence without Hillary in office. I like that he's going to be a technical advisor.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories.
No, that's not a conspiracy theory. That is in this CNBC article. That's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, that is legitimately what's going on. Is he doesn't have the cachet that he
so far to one side is that the other side hates you, right?
Right. That's exactly what the problem is he's hated in D.C. because he was a Hillary shill, and now that's not hip. And Trump's in power, and he's passing tax bills, and Eric Schmidt is a liability for Alphabet. And so they're going to put somebody else in there, but I wonder who. And if they take, say, one of the two Google founders, Larry Page, I don't know who, then that's one less insulating factor at Google.
Wait a minute. If only there were a technically savvy Republican that was available.
Well, that guy would be happy about the tax bill because Apple is... You remember how we've always heard about Apple bringing in a whole bunch of their monies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess the new tax bill is going to allow them to bring back $252.3 billion foreign dollars.
Wait a minute. Allow them?
Without a major tax hit.
I was going to say, that's a cute way to phrase that.
Well, yeah, that's Reuters for you, or Reuters. The tax overhaul passed by Congress this week will allow Apple to bring back $252.3 billion foreign cash piled dollars without a major tax hit, which is a long-standing goal of theirs. I bet that's...
They will use that for shareholder dividends and buybacks.
Yeah, I bet Tim Cook's going to get a nice bony from that. All right, so let's just get through. There's just a couple of Apple stories, because we've been sort of delaying this. We've been delaying the inevitable, and I feel like we just need to get through them. There is a huge rumor that I think is very germane to this show, and then there is a huge controversy, which I'm not sure how we're going to feel about this. So let's take a moment and cleanse the palate and thank Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. linuxacademy.com/coders. Go there to get a 7-day free trial to the Linux Academy platform. Linux Academy is a full-featured training library with everything you need to learn new skills and advance your career. If you're looking for a job, you've got one, or you need new clients, this is a great resource. Self-paced, in-depth video courses on every Linux, cloud, and DevOps topic, including AWS, Azure, and OpenStack, with hands-on scenario-based labs that give you experience on real servers so you have the confidence not only for the test, but also for production, which I don't know how you put a value on that, really, to be honest with you. And if you ever get stuck, they have humans that can help you, real-time, full-time instructors that are there to help help the pupils, and they're constantly adding new courseware, new practice exams, new certification training, new flashcards. And the flashcards are really cool because it's kind of like an open source initiative, really, because the community is forking them, adding new study material. They have goals of completion and like certifications that get posted on your public profile. You can link that to an employer or a potential client, or just use it for yourself to just keep track of the accomplishments. linuxacademy.com/coders. You can also grab the downloadable comprehensive study guides, lesson audio, and the little toolkits that you can use either on your iOS or Android app or a phone thingy, whatever you use, I don't care, to do your testing while you're going. Try a practice exam. You got some commute time? Take a practice exam. Learn about Ruby. That's such a cool feature, and they're adding new stuff all the time. And the courseware will spin up a virtual server when you need it. It's really simple to SSH into it. You get the full experience. You can go to linuxacademy.com/coders to log in, create an account, try out a 7-day trial, and just take a look around. See if there's something you want to learn. Maybe you can get something under your belt in that 7 days. That'd be pretty cool. linuxacademy.com/coders. linuxacademy.com/coders. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. So every single outlet this week is reporting. Ryan Sipes. You know what? Did we say Ryan's name 3 times? We just did.
We did, yeah.
Hey, Ryan Sipes in the Discord. Well, Ryan, stick around. We're doing 2 shows. Apple has a big rumor this week, and every news outlet is reporting on it. I believe it started with your good buddy Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg, and now everywhere has a report, including the folks at Ars, which essentially says that Apple has a skunkworks project, much like they did with the Intel stuff. So all these things always get immediate traction because, well, one time the rumors were true that Apple had a skunkworks Intel project for Mac OS. So therefore, every
one
other
time
rumor
at Bandcamp,
yeah,
they bought some Pentium 4s.
Yeah, so therefore, every other rumor about Apple having skunkworks project must be true. But this one, oh god,
this one is true.
Yeah, probably. So the thing here is that it just seems like obvious that they would be building universal apps for iOS and macOS. The internal Apple project is codenamed Marzipan. It's not yet a done deal, but it essentially would unify macOS and iOS. And the speculation is wide, everywhere from a totally new OS for Macs that is based on iOS, sort of like how they build Apple TV or Apple tvOS or whatever, watchOS. Then there would be macOS, but it would be based on iOS, just like Apple like tvOS and watchOS. Or it's going to be some sort of universal platform where there's a runtime. I mean, there's the speculation is running crazy. It would seem to make sense that at some point they have to unify these 2 platforms. You can look at some of the applications that are available for the Mac, and they're kind of like watered down, obvious ports of iOS. Photos, maps, contacts, and it's an obvious derivative of the
messages.
iOS. Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah. Anyways, what do you think of this idea? And do you think it would be the worst thing that ever happens ever? Are you muted over there? I mean, come on. Ryan's watching.
No, I was just crying to myself.
Don't embarrass me in front of Ryan. That'd be really bad. I mean, jeez.
So, is it the worst thing that's ever happened? No. They upgraded Snow Leopard to something crappy called Lion.
If you're watching, by the way, if you're watching the video version of this show, the screenshot they have here of Mac OS, geez, if that doesn't look like GNOME 3. Holy shit, that if they got the dark theme with that is verbatim what my GNOME 3 desktop, except for an Apple logo up there in the middle. Wow.
Yeah.
And pretty close to what Unity 7 looks like too, actually. This is this I feel like is inevitable. This the Mac has sucked since the iPhone became a hit. It really has. And the applications, remember when iLife and iWorks were like a yearly thing? That's gone, just totally gone. If it doesn't help iCloud, if it doesn't help integration with the iPhone,
and by the way, God couldn't help iCloud at this point. Like
you really do you want to get into iCloud really? Because I
hate iCloud. That's what I'm saying.
What's the matter with you?
Divine. What do you mean? It doesn't work ever. Like
what? Basic
syncing doesn't work.
I feel like we got to stay on point because that you're wrong. And
when I go to the iCloud, hang on, my man-child servant is bringing me coffee. We all have to wait.
Oh my god! All right, I'll finish off this bottle of gin.
Where can you buy those Princess Leia bikinis again? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I bet you could find them on Amazon, my friend.
I'm sure you can. The Jeff Bezos collection. No, but all right. So this makes a lot of sense to me because Mac apps have effectively been coming kind of. All right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree.
If you hate Electron apps, then this is not quite as bad.
No,
right?
they're native.
If you're like, go ahead.
They're native, right? I mean, they run native apps. They build down to.
They're technically native. I think that this makes a lot of sense. As the only person on the air today who has actually done Mac and iOS development quite separately from each other, I can tell you that the AppKit framework is a gigantic pain in the ass compared to Cocoa Touch, or rather UIKit. And especially when dealing with like table views, when working in AppKit, I have long wished for UIKit.
Yeah, I can understand that. I totally can understand that. But my response to that is show me Photoshop or Final Cut or Logic on iOS.
Yeah, but Photoshop and Final Cut, not Final Cut, are
that's still something else.
very different, but equally fun. That's what they need those new NVIDIA chips for. Are partially still in Carbon, aren't they? Like
yeah.
C++, like they're not even like really. They're certainly not Swift.
But that's actually my point, Mike. Is I think that's what it takes to have like a multi-million or billion-dollar company invest more than 6 months into something. Is you gotta have runway that is 5, 6, 7, 10, maybe even 20 years.
I don't understand that.
Well, so the value of the Mac and the value of Windows is that applications that Adobe spent millions of dollars on 15 years ago are still runnable and relevant and not completely unusable.
Yeah, what's wrong with that though?
You reboot and you base it on iOS and you start shipping. Okay. The thing is that iOS apps can't do the same things that Mac apps. Mac apps have access to the file system. Mac apps can talk to my microphone without requesting it. Mac applications can just abuse my GPU in a way that gets the job done. iOS devices don't have that option.
Your GPU was asking for it.
An iOS device can't even play 2 sound files at the same time. It can't even play 2 audio files at the same time. It can't.
Which is stupid.
You can't. What?
Which is really stupid.
Yeah, I mean, my point is the value of the Mac is that it is not iOS, and the value of Windows is that it is not Android.
You're reading a lot into this. So there's a couple things they could be doing, right? They could be doing exactly what you say, and I think the evidence actually supports what you're saying.
It's Bloomberg, it's Gurman, it's a bunch of yeah.
Right, where it's because with the sandboxing right on Mac, sandboxing really doesn't need to exist on Mac. Like at this point,
it's been a huge failure for the Mac App Store.
Right, but I just don't think that's right. Right, Macs are basically professional production tools at this point. I just don't think you need that level of hand holding.
Exactly. And the thing is, which is really quick to interject, but if you think about it, it's already typically safer than a Windows machine. So you have an engineer, you have somebody who's creating something on a Mac, they're almost better off than they would be on a Windows system. On a Mac, you just don't need the level of protection that you need on a phone, is my personal opinion. All right, continue on.
Yeah, mine too. So it is, I would even say likely that what you're saying is true, that they're going to bring it over both in APIs and policy over to the iOS sort of way, the UIKit, Cocoa Touch sort of way. But there's a hope, and as a former Mac developer, I would really have this hope that they're just doing. There was a project called Chameleon, which basically did this. It wrapped AppKit APIs and frameworks in UIKit-like wrappers. So the idea was you would get a simpler, UI table view delegate, data source kind of pattern. That's the specific thing for table views and generating cells, but actually get an NS table view, right? Like an AppKit table view. If they're just doing that, that would actually be phenomenal. That would give you an easier interface, a more modern interface to work with when developing OS X applications. I agree with you that they can't help themselves but lock shit down, and they will probably do exactly what you described. But even if they did, it's still maybe one. If they do that, I bet you they're going to say you must use this tool or these permission structures when writing Mac OS apps in the App Store. So if you care about the App Store, you're probably hosed anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let me just finish.
Oh yeah.
But the advantages of these simplified and modernized API points and framework structures are probably still worth it to make those compromises with Apple if you're serious about Mac OS development. Because the one thing about the Mac market, and let's exclude mobile from here, but in terms of workstations, is professional Mac users, tend to keep within one or two major versions, right, or minor versions rather. It's pretty rare for someone to not upgrade their Mac. So eventually, you will be pulled forward as a developer, right, as an app publisher.
Okay. So what you're saying is that because of the regularity of the customer base upgrading, developers will quickly adapt, and the applications will become built around the new whatever the new APIs are and the new OS is fairly quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little less rosy than that because the other reality is shitty iOS developers who are over wherever China or whatever, and are developing shovelware fake iOS apps for the App Store, are also now going to develop shovelware fake apps for Mac OS.
Actually though, if you think about it, the Apple of today that would make this transition is a completely and totally different beast than the Apple that made the transition from PowerPC to Intel or from Classic to macOS 10. So what I mean by that is just by their sheer fucking size and money reserves, they are one of the most important companies in the world. And so when
Sweet, beautiful money. Sorry, keep going.
Well, it's just when you go to Adobe and you say, hey, what do you need to make a successful product on our platform if we make this transition? And Adobe says, well, we're going to need this, 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 and this. Apple says, all right, we'll have everybody on point for that. We're going to go here in 5 years. Can you build for that?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. That's a much different Apple today. When Tim Cook's sitting across that table with $200 billion $200 billion is about to come into the United States for Apple. And that, by the way, is just like the shit they have in their cushion. And he's sitting across the table. That's a totally different conversation than when Steve Jobs was sitting across the table with the PowerPC architecture and Flash reigning total supreme. They're in a totally different position now to get the Microsofts and the Adobes of the world to embrace the new Mac OS.
I agree with you, but there's a couple things I think you're overlooking that are super important.
All right.
The first one is Apple's not going to roll out whatever. Let's call it Unity Kit, right? For lack of a better name.
Oh, good. Yeah, let's call it that.
Let's overload Unity even more. They're not going to put a gun to everybody's head and say you have to use Unity. They didn't even do that with Swift yet, right? And you know why? Because it doesn't make sense. It only would hurt them. The other thing is, and I think you Linux guys in particular make this mistake a lot. A Mac really is just a dolled-up BSD machine in a lot of ways. It really is. One of the beauties of Mac development is you actually have that BSD underpinning where you can do things like write your entire engine or your entire data processing library part of your application in just straight up C++, right? Basically standard ANSI, and go from there. They're not, I mean, I could be wrong, and I would be shocked and appalled if this was true, but they're not going to make Mac developers give that up. Because how could they? I mean,
you're right.
Let's look at Photoshop. Large portions of the Photoshop suite are built in C++ and C because they do crazy graphics processing. No one's going to write that shit in Swift.
It would be the murder of the platform. You're right. You're right.
And this is going to go into, and we're getting close to time for 290, but when you think about the Mac, you have to think about, and I think it's a healthier way to think about it, a completely proprietary controlled distro of BSD. Because once you look at it from that perspective and you remember that you have BSD under the hood, a lot of things that seem hard are really easy. And one of the funny things I found, particularly with Docker and stuff like that, is there are Mac ways to do things, but most things that work on BSD will work on Mac, with no modification whatsoever.
Huh.
So if you want to run a Mac machine like it is a BSD box, You can basically do that, and you get the pretty UI, and you get the graphics drivers, and you can watch, so many of them, Chris. So many loves in my heart. I just jumbled Taylor Swift and Tiffany Albert into one being. It's like Galadriel in a lot of ways. Taylor Swift's newest video, Gorgeous, at the Jingle Ball concert in New York on YouTube. You can certainly do that.
Okay, good to know.
Yes. All right. Glad I got that in there.
Woo! All right, Mr. Dominic. Well, on that high note, is there anywhere you want to send people? If they want more Mike in their life, maybe they want to figure out what Alice can do for them. I mean, give people some links. What the hell, man?
Yeah, please send your donations to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. It's Christmas. This is my good deed.
Oh, jeez, you're better than me. You know what? That's good. That's you're right. You know what? I'm just gonna leave it at that too. Very good, very good. Go there, and you know what else I'll say is have a great damn holiday. Whatever you celebrate, just have a good one, and hope you got something out of 2017 that's useful. Let's get back here together. We'll do one more of these things, and then let's hang out in 2018, and then we'll make 2018 just kick ass. I don't know how we're gonna do it yet. Maybe you can participate in the Discord. Go to discord.me/JupiterColony, hang out there. Lifetimes, jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar, and send us your emails, your thoughts, and what we should do in 2018. jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of the Code Radio program, and we'll see you right back here in about 10 seconds. Nah, really next week. I was just kidding. Okay, all right, there we go, and we switch over to 290.
290, where I show you my Luke Skywalker review. Oh, Hunter, wait, can I get water?
We got to title this thing really quick. So Discord, IRC, if you're out there, give us a title. Before we move on, we got to name this monster, because, what should we call this? What should we call this thing? I'll search and see if anybody gave us any bang suggests. Scanning. Indications negative at this time. You know what? Here, you know what? Perhaps we have to do a more intense scan. Mr. Spock.
Fascinating.
Scanning for titles. The shit we used to do, our shit has gone to shit. That was the one suggest we got out of the Discord. That's pretty good.
What's that? Did all 150,000 of you hear that?
What was that?
He scored the highest score on his math exam in the district. Yet he doesn't know how to make coffee.
All right, so we've got nothing from the IRC. We got nothing from the Discord. We are totally screwed on titles. What would you like to name this thing? Apple blows it. Oh shit! We didn't even mention the battery thing.
Shit, we didn't even. Well, I can hear the YouTube comments already.
I know. That's what I was thinking.
You know what? Let's just call it Apple assimilation or Apple singularity.
Apple's. If it's a positive Apple thing, I don't know. I don't know actually.
Who cares? It's going to be something with Apple. People are going to be mad. It doesn't really matter.
You think so? You think we're fucked either way?
I think we're fucked either way.
Actually, probably the better thing to do is just to disclose that it's an Apple thing in the title, so that way the people are going to be really the most butthurt about it.
That's what I think. We actually put the word Apple in the title, right?
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm on board with that. So, Apple's black hole. Apple.
That's a party.
How would you summarize this if they switch to iOS based? How would you summarize that?
Appleseed? I don't know.
No, that's horrible. Come on.
That was pretty bad. Johnny iOS? No, that's too much Johnny Ive.
Johnny iOS. Johnny Mac OS.
We could be very boring and call it like UI kit for Mac OS, but iOS X, UI Kit X.
Oh, God, you're putting me to sleep. I'm sorry. You're putting me to sleep with that. I am falling asleep now.
Cupertino Abomination.
Apple Skunk Works. Apple Payday. How about Apple's Payday? Apple Payday.
No, Apple Payday. I love it.
Okay, yeah, all right. Apple Payday. And it's actually a play on Apple Pay, so that's... Is Payday one word? I wouldn't know. That's a good joke right there. That was good. All right, Apple Payday. There it is. So what should I say about it before we start? What should I say about this thing? What did we talk about? Mike's spent a week with JavaScript. Apple has a big gift. What else? What did we talk the most about though? Like, it's not even in the show notes. What we talked about the most about is not in the show notes at all. And
I have no idea.
What did we talk about, chat room? Jesus Christ. That's what happens when I drink like 2 shots of gin. I can't even remember. I just have no idea. Plus, Linux is what do we had some shit about Linux and Windows 10. Linux is new fight. Amazon's big wins. And the things that have really gone to hell. That's about it, right? That's about it. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call that good. Nice work. And now we start the next one. 290. Sometime in the future. This is Coda Radio. Sometime in the future, which is your present. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Captain Kirk climbing a mountain. Okay, so 290. Is it? Do you say Cannabon or do you say Canaban? I think you say ban, don't you? You say Canaban.
You mean Kanban?
Oh, Kanban?
Kanban, I think. Yeah.
I feel like you have like an East Coast accent on some of this stuff, so I can't always 100% trust you. But I think you might be right.
There's no other A.
Well, I know, but like somebody wrote in and said you have a New Jersey accent about it, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
I'm like 100% sure it's Kanban.
Kanban?
Yeah.
Like a Cinnabon. Only
no,
not
that's
nearly.
Cinnabon. Who taught you how to talk?
You say, how do you say Cinnabon?
Cinnabon.
Oh, interesting. All right.
It's going to be the accent episode of Coda Radio.
Cinnabon. How to pronounce? Okay, here we go.
Don't worry, I'm going to blow out this entire this document you put together anyway.
How do you say it?
Which one?
Cinnabon.
Cinnabon.
No, it's Cinnabon.
No, bun. B-U-N.
Cinnabon.
No, sorry, Google. No.
All right. Okay. All right. Hold on. I gotta go see if I have something else to drink because I already had my. All right. So I already had my shot. So
that's fine.
I mean, so it's Cinnabon is the Google pronunciation.
Cinnabon.
That's saying bon, dude. That is saying bon.
Bun. B-U-N. Like nice buns, hun.
I agree. It should be Cinnabon. I agree. I agree. I don't disagree, but I'm just telling you, if you ask the machine, it's I'm not that's not me saying this. This is I'm saying
go get your drink. Come on, let's go. We're half hour late.
Cinnabon.
So
Brand pronunciation.
That's right, I'll
This
sing
is
while
a
he's
scenario
not
that happens quite often. Well, you're among a group of people and mistakenly pronounce a word. This got us thinking about all of the other things that are commonly mispronounced. General mispronounced words.
Seriously?
Pronunciation. 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 Mojito. 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 Espresso. Espresso. Espresso.
Espresso and a mojito in the
Asthma.
face when it comes back.
Asthma. Asthma. Pizza. 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 Breakfast. 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 Genre. 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 Monk. 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 Entrepreneur. 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 Chassis. 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 Denji.
See, this is what happens when I have the gin and you have the coffee. You want to go, and I want to.
What?
When you have the coffee and I have the gin, I want to debate pronunciation, and you want to go. All right, here we go. Speaking of go, this here is Coda Radio, and we're gonna do 290. Ladies and gentlemen, do a better job of titling this time. I mean, what the hell? What the hell? Anyways, yeah, if you could help us title, I'd really appreciate that. Bang suggest wherever you're doing this at. Here we go. It's Coda Radio 290, and it begins right now. Right now, right here, in a 3, in a 2. This is Coda Radio, episode 290, for some time in the future, which is actually your present. Hi everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and join us every single week gathered around the Festivus pole. Yes, it's our host, Mr. Michael Dominic. Hello, Mike.
In the words of my adopted father, Sarek the Spock, it's not my human heart, but my New Jersey tongue that is causing me these problems.
I agree. You know, he's very wise. He's very wise.
He is. And anybody who's not listening live has no ideas about the Cinnabon/Cinnabon war that just happened.
No, that's why you got to tune in live. Oh, jeez. Hold on. That was a really good intro. You did a really good job. I didn't, however, I did not record.
However, you failed to record it. Yes!
Do it all over again, though, because that was my favorite intro of all time. So we'll just do that. I was on point. You were on point. The only problem is that I hit stop so that way I could upload the file, and then I never start again.
I can't do it twice in a row. The house is going to be different.
But... All right. Well, it's good. All right, here we go. That was good. It was good. And I hate everything that is everything. And we start all over again, now this time for real, in 3, in 2. By the way, at least I noticed it then. I mean, really, if you think about it.
We were like 20 minutes in.
Yeah. This is why Chris doesn't have gin and podcast. In 3, in 2. This is Coda Radio, episode 290, for sometime in the future, which is your present. Hi everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, a special holiday edition of Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on, but more important than that, my name is Chris, and our host, sitting around the Festivus pole, is Mr. Michael Dominic. Hello, Mike!
In the words of my Vulcan father, it's not my human heart, but my New Jersey tongue that has failed us.
As we all know,
I don't believe you.
As has been documented.
Get out of here.
By our soundboard.
Get
the hell out of here.
Let's just settle this. It's Cinnabon with a U.
I love
like
it.
Nice buns, hun.
I've
Not
never
bon, like want some bonbons, ma'am?
The history of triggering you has never been stronger than with this Cinnabon thing, and it happened off recording. It was on air, it was live, but it was not on recording. So now there's going to be this Cinnabon controversy, and it started off air. But at least on the West Coast, we say Cinnabon. And now I appreciate that it should be
Another reason I can't wait for it to sink into the ocean. I'm sorry, what?
That's amazing. I mean, I appreciate that it should be Cinnabon. I do appreciate that because they're like delicious, tasty buns, you know? So I totally understand where you're coming from.
It doesn't like a pair of hot buns.
But when I asked for
or does too much too soon.
See, so when you look at the spelling, it is Cinnabon though. It is Cinnabon. Do you see where the
bun is the product? Rikai settled it in Discord.
What's that?
So they sell Cinnabuns with a U, but the name of the corporation is Cinnabon. And I bet you can't trademark the word,
okay,
right? Because it's just a cake.
So
it's not. I know it's a cake. What is it? Like a pastry?
Did we just end a feud like a good hot 30 seconds after it started? Then.
Well, it's the second time we've had this argument, though. So.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, is it's technically accurate to say Cinnabon, or I'm going to go get some Cinnabon is actually accurate because you're getting Cinnabon's product, which is a Cinnabon. You see what I'm saying? So you're good either way.
I mean, you could say that if you have no self-respect, I guess. Like.
This is what happens when you drink coffee before the show. This is what I get when you've had a Bloody Mary and then you drink some coffee. This is what I get. All right. Well, do you want to have a damn holiday special or what? I mean,
yeah, this is going to be a different holiday special than last year.
Yeah, it is. You want to talk about Kanban, which is what started the Cinnabon discussion in the first place?
I'm not familiar with Kanban. I'm familiar with Oh shit! I can't even say it now. Kanban? Oh my god, you ruined everything. Is it a Gile? It's a Gile, right?
This is the best moment of the year right here when I wrecked your pronunciation of something. So we have an anonymous email. Came in by John Doe. And okay, we do need to decide how we're gonna he uses the word Kanban 35 times in this email, so we do need to decide how I'm gonna say it. So how do you want me to say it? And I'll just say it that way. Kanban, like Kirk's Con?
The Con, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, Chris and Michael. I'm a longtime listener, and I started around episode 70 or so. Please keep my identity private due to the sensitive nature of my projects. So John writes, I'm a serious senior enterprise-level programmer here in Tampa, Florida, a.k.a. old dude. These days, I'm supposed to go by the title of software engineer, quote-unquote. I have been programming for some time, both on distributed systems and on the IBM mainframe. Currently, I'm working on a bleeding-edge, quote-unquote, project to transform payment systems. I have no interest in being a public person, so I'd like to stay anonymized. I wanted to comment on the discussion about the Kanban and Agile. I have the Kanban training here at work, and my employer, I just like that he calls it the Kanban. I have the Kanban training here at work and at my current employer as part of our Kanban certification course. The pronunciation of the word Kanban that was used in the class was one very much like how the Jersey pronunciation that Michael uses. One of the main...
I swear to God, if you wrote this email yourself...
I did not, dude. I promise you. I actually even know the guy's name, but I promise to not reveal it.
Yeah, all right.
I swear. He says, one of the main aspects of Kanban was that... one of the main aspects of Kanban was that it left out your discussion... that was left out of your discussion was queue limits. This would mean that at any period of time, there can only be a finite number of projects or features being worked on. This limit number should be set ahead of time and should be hard and fast. That being said, I've never seen Kanban successfully employed in the development environment. I've also I've also seen all flavors of Agile started, but no approach was adhered to long term. Yeah, it seems that every time a given methodology is started, it is the business side, the customer and financier of the project, that breaks the process.
maybe.
Yeah, I think that I'm mixed on that as well. The damage is usually due to a new or changed business demand and how team leadership deals with these demands. I do not deal with independent business as clients, but I can only assume that the same happens there. Thanks for the show. I've always enjoyed the topics discussed. I've also subscribed to Linux Academy via the show's promotion. I wish Michael much success here in Florida. The summers can be hard. Hang in there.
And the winters aren't going too well either.
Really? Really? I thought that would be the highlight of being down in Florida, actually. That's why you go to Florida.
So this email, and I have not looked at your doc because why even pretend?
It's the holiday edition. We don't need to look at any docs.
This is going to be a launching point for what I think will be one of my most epic rants.
Really? I mean, this is going to be a holiday special.
It's going to be a very... I hope I don't hit the Swift announcement level, but...
Get the hell out of here.
It may be within my grasp. So... To answer the serial killer from the movie Seven's question, also named John Doe, it's completely true that your experience is correct, right? I have personally never seen Agile work the way it's supposed to work, right? And I have never seen any form of Agile, time and materials, Agile to a cap, Kanban, Cinnabon, whatever you want to call it, work. And the reason is at some point people have budgets and expectations, and you're either going to do it too fast and your PM's going to be mad, or the owner of your company is going to be mad and you're not going to make enough money.
Yeah.
Or you'll do it too slow for some complication and the client will be mad, or the stakeholders if you're not a contractor. And before, I just want to set the table. Can I set the table for a feast here?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm not even going to go into this yet, but it's something I want to talk about today, estimating. I don't care if you're doing Agile, T&M, Waterfall, whatever name you choose to use for your process. If your estimate is not right, and there is no real way to, in my opinion, to accurately estimate how long it takes to do software, then you are destined for failure.
I'm sorry, but you just said there's no way to accurately do it.
Correct. And this is a reversal, longtime listeners to the show. And I want to save this. This is the ham for our rage dinner tonight. I want to save it, although I'm Italian. So this is the chicken parm.
Wait a minute, really? Dinner. Chicken parm, huh? That sounds good, dude. That's nice.
Well, we used to do shrimp marsala, which if you're not familiar, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And chicken parm, and manicotti, and lasagna, and meatballs. And Italian people are fat. We just like to eat.
You've earned it.
And we like to fight. Well, and we like to fight. So, it's a good time.
Actually, everybody likes to fight. And that's the funny thing, is a business is a lot like a family. Every family has, when you picture a family, we all have this, at least here in America, we have like this 1950s projected ideal of the perfect family that gets together on the holidays and we sit around the table. But in reality, every family has compromises. Every family has bits that don't work like we all would just hope they would have when we were daydreaming about what family would be like. Just like a business. And that's why every contract that... What's that?
You've met my wife then.
That's why every client, that Mike and I would go into is never doing any of these things to the letter. Nobody is. And what's funny is we all judge ourselves to the letter, but nobody. Everybody takes as much as they can from it, and then there's the realities of having to get the job done that make you take some level of compromise. And that's just the reality of every business, like every family.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge topic, though, right? I mean, if we can just do, and I know we have his email. I mean, do we want to just handle his email first, and then I can do my retrospective really fast?
Yeah, sure.
And set the stage. So, yeah, I mean, Kanban, Cinnabon, it's like every other process. It sounds great, but once the money hits the road, it basically doesn't work, right? Unfortunately, process is hard. And I am of the opinion now, which I think this has actually been part of my kind of year-long journey up out of hell and into light, as Dante would say. Or actually, it's more back into hell, isn't it? Where it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just going to throw this out there, Chris. Waterfall is no worse or better than Kanban or any other form of Agile.
You son of a bitch.
They all suck. They just suck in different ways, right? Like, let me put.
But isn't that why they matter in a way? Because they suck in different ways, and for different companies, they work in different ways.
Well, let's just define some terms. But they do suck. I think you're right. But when I say agile, I am specifically talking about a big umbrella of different processes, right? You could have extreme programming, you could have Kanban, you could have sprints, you could have Scrum. But at the the parent class level, I'm really talking time and materials, right? Hourly billing. Fair. Where you don't really have like a contract that says this will be done by these many hours, or we're on the hook for it. Waterfall, I mean fixed bid, right? And there's a bunch of other there's a bunch of other things that go into waterfall, but for the simplification of the conversation, I'm talking about fixed bids. And I think going into this year, I had a fallacy about what agile really meant. And it turns out that it doesn't work in a lot of ways.
Oh.
Because people still have budgets and people still have expectations.
Are you angry that you wasted time on it then? If you think it doesn't work, are you now angry that you wasted time?
So I'm not suggesting that fixed scope works better either. Because I spent years on a fixed bid model, right?
Yeah.
I agree. The difference with agile is basically the worst thing that happens is you get fired. And there's a lot that goes into this, and I'm simplifying just up front to let you jump in, but I actually think that the entire software development industry is fundamentally broken in a very big way. Things cost a lot, and things should cost a lot. You should not engage contractors and not expect to spend six figures.
Things cost a lot, and people don't have an appreciation for how much work things are because it's
right. And also, like, internal teams are always more efficient than external teams, so you shouldn't like compare the two.
What we are dealing with, and I say we in the bigger sense, is
right.
Is a problem that electricians and plumbers started to deal with, but is so much worse as the work becomes more and more abstracted from what the user or the client understands.
It's really weird because, like, and I'm not talking about any particular project here because I've had about 5 projects that were just like this, where there's an organization that has internal developers and they're just overwhelmed, right? And they would like you to come in and, work with them a little bit.
Yeah.
But the problem is it probably takes you 2 months to actually get up to speed on their system.
Or 3 months until you're really, really adding good insight and value.
Right. And you have to like give this estimate that's based on some document that you barely understand, right? Or you think you understand it, but because you don't have the years of experience in the organization, you're just wrong or whatever.
Yeah, the best thing you can bring is, well, I've done a lot of something like this in other companies, or I have seen a lot of people try something like this, which is valuable to them, but it's not mixed with a true understanding of what their objective is as a business.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of the like write this internal system that we have in different framework stuff this year, which was kind of new because it used to be make a mobile version of this, right?
Interesting, yeah.
And the beauty of mobile is like there are so many restrictions, especially for iOS, that it's easy just to say no to things and be like, actually, no, it has to like this because that's the way it goes. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. In other words, I guess don't beat yourself up about it, but these are all frameworks to get us to work together on concepts that are imaginary. That's the reality of it, and that's why they're not perfect.
Well, so large premise that doesn't make sense, and then we'll go into some more stories about why I think this might be true.
Okay.
It is actually impossible for an outside entity or an outside developer to accurately estimate any development job for your organization. And if they're going to be wrong, they are going to be wildly underestimated, right? Like by a factor of 4 or 5x.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all.
Right. So it's where I am. And I don't know if you want to do an ad here, but I will tell you about the journey I've been on. See, I'm plugging you for the ads.
Yeah.
Once I launch into this, it's going to be bad. So
let's do it. Yeah, and this so much of what you're saying totally resonates with my experience as well. So I think that's kind of why, in a way, it's kind of like, you know what you are right now is you're that stupid son of a bitch that was that magician who went on Fox and revealed like all of the magician's secrets. You're that guy.
Oh, I have an announcement at the end of the show. There's a reason I'm doing this.
Okay.
So, for lighting yourself on fire in public.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, really, the truth is one of the things I stressed out the most about early on in my contracting career was these estimates. I got better at couching, and I also got better at manipulating as time went on, and that's how I managed to compensate.
You get really good at spin, right? You get like really good at, oh, that's not a bug. That's actually a change order.
Right. Or you intentionally overestimate in this area because you know you're probably going to end up needing slack in another area that they're not willing to give you slack. Like it's this weird sensing what the client can accept versus what the client can't accept, and leaning into the areas where you feel like they will give and then making up for it in the areas where you feel like they won't. And it's like this manipulation game, really.
So let me do my Magicians Unmasked thing. I think that's the name of the show here. Core Data, when I used to do a lot of iOS.
Wait, what about the ad thing? That was a good tease. That was the tease. All right.
Do the ad thing.
All right.
Go.
All right. Because that's it right there. I mean, I think you set me up. Let's do this really quick. One of the things that I want to mention is that I think one of the best sponsors for this show for the whole year has been Linux Academy. I mean, obviously both our sponsors are they're freaking perfect for our audience, but Linux Academy, if you haven't done it before, this could be your opportunity. Really think about going to linuxacademy.com/coders. It is a perfect fit for a lot of the goals of our audience. Linux Academy is a platform to learn not just about Linux, but all the technologies surrounding Linux.
Whether you're an experienced sysadmin or new to the world of Linux, Azure and AWS, OpenStack and DevOps, a sharp skill set is an absolute necessity to succeed. Meet Linux Academy, an online Linux and cloud training platform that uses self-paced video courses and hands-on labs to give you real-world experience for a wide range of skills. Train for your certification, learn the latest DevOps tools, and grow your skill set to do better work. Linux Academy is not just a video library. Our scenario-based server labs and quiz system allow you to learn hands-on. We also have full-time human instructors who answer questions and help you earn that certification or promotion at work. We add new training every week so you'll always be up to date on the latest tech. Sysadmins of every experience level use Linux Academy to stay on the bleeding edge of the Linux ecosystem. You should too.
Also, if you go to an industry event, especially if work can send you, keep an eye out for Linux Academy. They've been attending a lot of them recently. Those hands-on labs are unbeatable, as well as that instructor mentoring. linuxacademy.com/coders. linuxacademy.com/coders. Now, Mr. Dominic, let's do it. Let's ruin the careers of a few consultants out there.
So, Mike's dirty magician's trick, circa 2013. Oh, you don't want to pay me for that ridiculous custom iOS UI you want? Okay. Oh, you want core data? Yeah, that's 150 hours.
Yeah.
Just for core data.
Right. You tuck it into the thing that they're hyped about, that they want to spend on.
Well, no, it's a thing they don't understand.
Right.
And
or
no one wants to look stupid in the meeting.
Right. Yes. Okay, that's probably
right.
That's better than what I just said because what it is they have a lot of opinions maybe on some things because it is understandable by them because a lot of times these are intelligent people you're working with, and then they have more vagary towards other things where you can extract a little extra leeway.
Well, and it's also a threat assessment, right? Because like non-technical people, and even actually technical people more so, you don't want your database layer screwed up, right? So you're probably not going to fight me on that extra week of labor.
Right. That's
now
the
this
valuable
trick
thing.
stopped working because I don't do a lot of native iOS development anymore. But it was one of those things that like I always had in my pocket because, you know, people would hire these designers, pay them like $3,000, and they would come up with like completely different controls, like down to
right. Well, that's what you're paying them for.
Yeah, but you want an app done in a month and you aren't willing to use the regular UI kit components. And remember, this is iOS 5 we're talking about, so there wasn't even like the framework to
fair enough, yeah.
Just UI components like you can now. Like it'd be a little easier now, but you had to actually like write your own views and like implement touch handlers. And people just didn't get that and didn't want. Well, it's just a button, man. Yeah, but it's not a UI button. It's not. You would have to tuck that away. So that's my number one magician's secret. And this is not part of the 2017 wrap up, though, Chris. This is going to be
an extravaganza, a holiday,
a rough show for YouTube. I'm going to tell you that right now, because we've all seen The Last Jedi, right?
No, I have not. I've been recording like 24/7.
Spoiler alert: Adam Driver with no shirt on. I mean, oh jeez, I got lost. Adam Driver's the guy who plays Kylo Ren. For people who don't really follow, I kind of sympathize with Luke Skywalker. It's time for the Jedi to end. In this case, the Jedi are developers. Because there's something fundamentally wrong. I mean, all kidding aside, IEEE published a statistic. Every year they publish their, it's the IEEE. I think they call it Connected. It's like their trade journal. Do you happen to have that, Chris? Do you read that journal at all?
I don't happen to. Although, if this is something you think I legitimately should, I'd be up for it.
It's free. The digital version's free, but it doesn't matter. Okay. I'll summarize. One of the things they follow is what percentage of software engineering projects based on their survey fail. It used to be about 40 to 50%. Now we're at like 55 to 60, according to their survey. And this isn't Mike's house of fake numbers. This is IEEE, which is one of the most respected, engineering organizations in the world. And I don't know how they do their survey. I don't know if the digital edition, if it's like a blog post, if that's different, if that doesn't have the same, peer review, blah, 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 disclaimer here. But that doesn't sound wrong to me, right? About slightly over half. And the number one reason for failure, as reported by their members, go ahead, Chris, take a guess. What is the number one reason software projects fail, according to self-reported vendors?
Well, is it something to do around sales or funding?
Estimation, right. Expectations and estimation. They lump it into one category, but you could call that sales too.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. You know what? Not a surprise based on what you just said. If you think about it,
the job is always going to be. So there's a funhouse mirror effect I'm finding, especially with these enterprise jobs, that for the internal team, because they've been steeped in the culture, they've been steeped in the technology that their organization uses. There's a lot of assumptions they have and a lot of experience they have with their processes, even like high level stuff like what exactly is it that we do at this business, right? And how, and I know we have like a statement we gave you, but really how do we operate, right, from a functional perspective? And there's stuff that is not documented. There's stuff that's just, in practice, you have to use this particular VPN provider, or in practice, our IT support desk is just not that responsive. So they get in this position where you have the appearance of external teams looking slower than their internal developers, right? Because they are slower. And then you get another phenomenon. Go ahead, play it. Where because the external salesman or the external sales engineer bidding on the project doesn't have that internal point of view, that years of expectations of experience working in the organization, and also has an incentive to like close the sale, will not intentionally, but totally accidentally wildly underestimate the project.
Yeah. Yeah.
By like factors of 5, right? By like huge margins.
Yeah, I mean, you hope to try to do better than factor of 5.
Well, how could you?
Yeah,
could you?
You can't.
Like the kiss of death.
And you always end up just you have to bear the brunt of it when you underestimate. You
right.
just
I going into 2018, my new rule is no, I don't want to see the code for your existing system because it's meaningless to me. Like, I know it's very counterintuitive, and maybe this is a personal failing, but I can't estimate a new project based on your existing code base. I just can't do it. And I don't know, the other trend that is being reported, and I think this is also by IEEE, but I'll double check it and put it in the notes, is insourcing is going way up, where companies are actually just hiring developers as employees rather than contracting out because they are seeing this failure rate on contracted out projects, right?
That seems like a good trend, though, in a way.
It's an interesting trend. I mean, I'm not convinced that, I'm kind of two minds, right? And I think this is partially, I remember when doing anything, like doing a basic website was like 50 grand. So the fact that people expect what they expect for like $30,000 or whatever, I find bending now. Like, I'm like,
I know it's offensive to you. It's offensive. It's offensive.
I mean, come on. In the 90s, it was like, oh, you want a basic HTML page? Yeah, that's $25,000, right? Like,
yeah.
And in the early 2000s, like, I remember when the iPhone came out, I didn't get up for less than 30 grand. Like,
don't bother.
And maybe, like, I was told by a guy who works for me, Dave, he was actually at the original Java 1 conference, and he says, you're just so young, you're spoiled. He said, because you got into consulting right when the iPhone came out. You're used to just, like, demanding lots of money and getting it.
Yeah.
This is what happens when technology aids it.
I got in right at the end of the 90s, right during the dot-com boom, and then during the transition to web. So I had a couple of different bubbles I got to ride, which were extreme. And then I had a lot of medical clients, and they were all writing that we have to go to electronic records. So I got a couple of really good trends that I got in on that. Looking back on it, I don't really know what I would sink my teeth into today if I had to go back into it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you think about it, if you had to start over from just totally nothing, I don't know what I would sink my teeth into. I mean, like, I can see where you're going with bots. That makes sense, but what I used to do, it's even more so. I benefited from a couple of different technology transitions that I was on the leading edge of that I was able to capitalize on top of. And I can see what he's saying to a degree. You probably did too, although I think now you've sort of transitioned from that, so it's not really a fair, not really. I mean, I think if you were going to start from nothing today, you'd probably still go in this direction, I would assume. What I'm saying is, like, with Alice, what I mean.
So, yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. If I could have started from zero, like, if January 1st was day zero, I probably would start directly in bots. Although the temptation of AR is there because it's weirdly easier to sell, it looks like.
Yeah, oh, sure. Yeah, totally. And plus, there's a lot of devices out there to buy.
And I think it's because it's more tangible for people is kind of the problem. So that's, like, setting the frame, right? Like, and I think we talked about this a little bit on 289, where, like, through the OS stuff, you and I have been on kind of a journey. Is that fair? Like, we've been on a little bit of a, I went full Linux for a while. I tried out Windows 10.
Yep. We've been through a reanalysis. We've been through a bunch of different. I've tried a dozen different Linux distros. I've tried Mac OS. I've tried Windows. I'm currently on 1604 Ubuntu. Tried Chrome. I've switched to Firefox. I've switched from Atom to Visual Studio Code. There's been a lot of things. Yeah.
But I'm basically back on Mac now, which is kind of weird. And in a way, I almost feel like all the OS looking, all the tool chain tinkering,
huge waste of time.
Huge waste of time.
Huge.
It was kind of a way to ignore what actually turned out to be very big fundamental problems.
I know.
That are hard. Right.
I think sometimes I have a tendency to over-focus on the tools, but then, see, like I was saying in 289, is I was associating myself with my tools more than I realized. When it came to, like, using Linux, I was connecting that more to my personal identity than was healthy. And so I wasn't considering other things that may have just let me get my job done 15, 20 minutes faster, which meant that I got more time to walk Levi, or I had a little bit more time to go get that Christmas present for Abby, or Hadia and I could make dinner together instead of just her making dinner. And those things are more what I want to associate myself with and less with the distro I use or the operating system that I use.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically the same. Hang out with my son, you know, whatever. It's the same thing.
Yeah, if something shaves 5 minutes off my day every single day, you know, like I'll give you an example. The Slack message I sent you this morning, it was like I don't know, it was like 6:45 a.m. when I sent that to you here in Pacific, but I figured you were up because you're East Coast.
And I have a 19-month-old who had surgery yesterday, so I was up at dawn.
Oh man.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Good, but he was not a happy camper.
No, that's no fun. No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, but this is boy, I feel like a dipshit now saying this because that's huge, and I've.
No. Be a dipshit. I'm a dipshit too.
So this morning when I was in bed and I woke up and the first thing I thought about was you. And I was like, well, I want to make it really was. And I was like, I want to make sure that I'm in the studio in time so that way we can do these 2-coder radios. And I felt bad because I meant to Slack you yesterday, but I was editing TechSnap until like 10 o'clock at night. And then it was 3 hours even later where you're at. So I didn't want to at you just in case.
I was actually.
Well, yeah, I know I probably should have just. But so what I did is I woke up like at 6:30, 6:45 a.m. and I normally am up before then, but today was it's been a marathon week, so this is my sleep-in day. So I slept until like 6:30. And I went out and I normally I have a machine set up. It runs Ubuntu 16.04. I've got a really nice mouse and a nice mechanical keyboard, and that's my like in the RV at home workstation. But we're moving the RV right now. We're going to a different site. And so I had everything put away, and the only thing I had out was my editing laptop, my MacBook Pro, and my Touch Bar. And I walked out of my bedroom and I grabbed my laptop, and before my eyes had really started working, and before my fingers and my hands were even fully woken up, I had my finger on the thumbprint reader or whatever you call it, the Touch ID, and I had Slack up, and I had sent you the message, and I was done, and I had the laptop closed, and I went back to bed. And I fell back asleep for another 15 minutes. And the whole like not having to like remember the password on that laptop and not not having to worry about the fact that it doesn't wake up from sleep within half a second. But by the time I have the screen open, it's awake. And then I put my finger on this stupid little nub in the corner and it's unlocked. Slack launches in half of a millisecond because this thing does nearly 2 gigs a second on the SSD. And I send you the message, I close the lid, it goes immediately back to sleep, no problem. I put it back down and I go back to bed. And that there's a very high probability that would have worked with Ubuntu, but it wouldn't have been that quick. It wouldn't have been that easy. It wouldn't have been that I'm brain dead asleep. I just want to make sure I connect with Mike really quick and go back to bed. And I thought, that felt pretty good. I don't normally have that laptop at home. I don't normally have it there, so I don't normally experience that easy, smooth process. And I don't know how you put a value on that. I don't know how I make that a feature that is tangible. Because to me, it was really Touch ID and the super quick wake from sleep and the really fast SSD that all just came together, and I was able to connect with you and plan for 2 episodes, and I came in an hour earlier in 15 seconds.
Well, the convenience factor has to be worth something, right?
I guess. I don't know. It's a shift in what I value as what's important to me. What do I consider important? And when I get settled in this new campsite for the holidays where we have all this stuff, I'll set up the machine, it'll be running Ubuntu, and I don't even, because I've had issues from waking from sleep, what I do is I just turn off the screen. I don't even sleep my machine. Is the way I compensate on Linux is it's running all the time and I don't lock it. Because LightDM's a piece of shit, and sleep is hit and miss. About 1 out of 6 times, X shits the bed, and so I have to reboot. And so what I have done to compensate is I have created a bash script that I have created a desktop entry for, that I've put in my home folder, that I have then linked in my sidebar, that I can click, that then launches a terminal that sleeps for 3 seconds. That way I'm not touching any of the input devices. It then sleeps my screen, and then I go to bed. And then if something comes up in the middle of the night that I have to dress for work, I sit down and I touch the keyboard, and the machine's instantly available because it's not sleeping. It's just the screen's been turned off because of this random hack I've created. It's fine. It's fine. It's just, what is your priorities? Do you want to write a script to do that and then create a desktop entry file and then use a program to edit the GNOME menu so that way you can then link it in your favorites area so that way it shows up in your dock extension? Or do you just want to open the lid, put your finger on a stupid nubbin, type a message, and close the lid?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. No, obviously I just want to open the lid and go, right?
Yeah.
And I found that kind of myself when I was, for a couple months there using Linux full time. It was a fun distraction. But it was almost like binge drinking in a lot of ways, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Because it feels good at the time, but not only does it not solve the problems you currently have, you also get a hangover on top of it, right?
Well, did it really all come together for you at that time when shit hit the fan and you needed to sign some apps? And
yeah, that was the moment, right? That was the end. That was really the end. It was when I got that call from our largest customer, and they were like, "Yo, I need a build, and I need it now." And
Mike's the one doing the build, Mike's the one doing the sign, Mike's the one satisfying the client, and it has to happen as smoothly for Mike as possible.
Well, and the other problem is Mike's also the one signing all the payroll checks and
taking care of everything else and doing the traveling at that time, doing the traveling,
flying to New York for a meeting that ended up being nothing, right? And making less money than he used to.
Uh-huh. Yep. Okay, here we go.
So there is a theme that I'm going to undercut or put in the undercurrent here that, we had a guy, and I'm sure he's a great guy, email into the show that wanted to have a call with me today, and I canceled it because with the kids, I honest to God, I slept less than 3 hours last night because if any of you who are parents that have children, that Eve was a minor surgery, but any time a child needs surgery, it's just it's not a good time.
Geez, even just the operational details of coordinating it all is stressful. Not to mention
then I left my checkbook at home when we went.
Yeah, of course you do, because you're all worried about the kid. You're worried about getting everything. Right. You're not thinking about what you need. You're not thinking about your stuff. Right.
So, of course, I drove back, and I ended up not being there for the surgery because the doctor did it. But tell you something, that doctor's assistant was on my cell phone with me the minute I hit my house because she wanted her money.
God, I have been in your position.
Yeah, so I'm just reading, routing numbers. Anyway, it's not important, but suffice it to say that this get to know you call was not super important to me, right? And what happened was it's this person also owns an agency or development shop, and I get these emails a lot where they have the misconception that I'm drumming up multi-million dollars of business because of the show, right? Because of this, and that's just not the case. And it's not any. I mean, you guys are great. I'm not dissing the audience, but the reasons enterprises buy software have very little to do with the reasons you guys listen to podcasts. I've had cases where a listener has introduced me to the director of IT at their company, but they've been like, "Yeah, we have a policy. They're not big enough." Right. And what has happened over this year is we're really trying to make this push towards quality and towards being a better dev shop, but we're hitting these walls that are hard to surmount. One, we have no outside funding, which is just a problem, right? So everything can be very bursty up and down. Two, process, which is a larger conversation I think we'll jump into in a minute here, but process is good to a point, but the problem is when you don't have a lot of process actually ends up being a cost center and costing money. So if you're not charging enough versus what you're paying people, you can't afford process.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And you get into positions of watching a operating account, go down and down and down. You end up making less than you used to make as an individual consultant. And, you know, I have had like visions, and, you know, my snow leopard joke from 289, you know, there was also something else in a cave on that mountain where the snow leopard was leaving me. It was the back room of my house with an iMac Pro being, you know, working alone, right? Like, because the reality of, and this is not great to say in the air, but the reality of my situation is we are either going to develop these processes fast enough and at a low enough cost with some sort of price increase, or we're not, right? Because we can't, you know, again, another misconception that like we charge what Thoughtbot charges. We are so much cheaper, which is a huge mistake. Because we just, like, simple things like account reps that answer the phone and, like, you know, that deal with the clients the developers don't have to is something I don't have because I can't afford to. Things like dedicated quality control, right? Don't have it. Things like for most of the year, I didn't have a dedicated salesperson.
Yeah,
now
sure.
I do.
Yeah.
But that's also a cost that isn't really working super well, and it's and one of the values that I have is transparency. So I've been telegraphing. That's why I'm okay saying this fall in the air. I've been telegraphing to people that we either need to charge more, get more business at a higher rate than what we have now, or become more efficient. If we don't, then we're in trouble. I mean, we're just not going to make it, because the problem is customers are demanding more quality from us, more professionalism, better estimating, and all of these kind of like process things, but we don't have it, right? And we have to hire it in. But people, you know, there's also some differences. The economy is actually very good right now, so hiring people is much harder. Even hiring remotely is hard because I can't put someone who has no experience on a project, let them take the project and think they're going to get it done without having a lawsuit on my hands or some sort of problem. So I need people with experience. So I'm back to doing what everybody else does, the 3 to 5 years experience thing. But those people want a salary. They want full time. So you can't give them contingency work, right? And because of the low rates we charge, we can't hire freelancers because there's no margin there. So you really get – I'm finding myself between a pretty significant rock and a hard place. And the other problem is, of course, all of this. Alice had some opportunities that I ended up foregoing to deal with client issues.
Oh,
that
no.
Sitting where I sit, right,
that's the worst. That stings so bad.
Right. And I got to be honest with you. I think some of these client issues are just simply not salvageable, and I should have just let them drop when they were going to drop.
Jesus, you and I are having the same. Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah,
right.
I totally understand.
Because the answer is I just have to spend a bunch of money, but you can't like raise rates, 25% overnight, right? You just can't do it. So.
Oh man, God. This new TechSnap relaunch it started as a total hit to my gut because I had no intention of replacing Dan, and I had an intention of launching new shows. I spent like the 10 months I took off at TechSnap rebuilding the back-end infrastructure to launch new shows and to totally revamp the way we do shows. And I was gearing up now to launch something on this huge new cool infrastructure I had built, and then I got this, hey, I gotta stop doing the show. It's taking too much time, and I gotta focus on these community events I'm doing. And my world just came crashing down because I was building and building and building steam to this huge new release, and I had to table it. And I spent the first 2 months trying to find someone else to fill in for me on TechSnap, to try to do it for me, so that way I could continue to launch the new product that I wanted to launch. And I couldn't find the right person who could do a decent job at it. And what I ended up doing was sort of having the best of both worlds in a way. Is I changed TechSnap to be the product that I wanted to create. And it was TechSnap itself as a product was suffering. If you were going to if you could make an equation, sales were down.
Right.
And they had been trending downward pretty significantly, and were showing that the product was probably about to lose its relevancy. And so I didn't have a lot to lose with it, and I decided that I would essentially use that as license to create it into what I wanted to make that I think would be a more competitive product. And it has been more successful so far. It's still early days, but I had this whole moment where it's like, well, shit, now I can't do the big thing I wanted to do. I can't do this thing that I've been planning for 3 months. I have to work on this existing thing that I have an agreement with sponsors on, that I have things in place, I have established audience for. I have to go back to this thing that I left 10 months ago. And I fought it for 2 months. I fought it 2 months straight.
You had sponsors, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, yep. And I fought that. I fought it because I felt like I was having to kill the new, possibly more successful product to salvage the existing thing. But at the same time, I realized, well, it's probably. I guess I realized there was a way to Windows 10 this thing and kind of make the existing product even better if I was willing to jettison a few couple of fundamental assumptions about it.
See, I don't know. Like, hearing you say that, it does seem like it's basically really the parallel journey there. But what you're saying, I think you fell into fallacies that I fell into for most of the years of like, I can just make this the new thing, right? I can do both. I can balance it.
No. I've killed the baby. The baby's dead. There's no baby.
Okay, you ended up killing the baby. I basically drowned the baby. Right. Yeah. That's what happened. And I don't know. I mean, you just relaunched TechSnap, so, and I hope it does well, right? Like, I'm not. But for me, I can tell you that drowning the baby from my side isn't worth it, or was not worth it. And I'm probably looking at a pretty negative outcome anyway going forward.
Yeah,
in terms of the consulting side of things.
I could see that being a thing. I could see that people could decide that they don't like the new TechSnap, and it should.
It's not even that they don't like it, right? They could like it fine. Like, see, this is the mistake I kept making, and that I'm trying to just psych myself up to correct. Muddling through and like being okay and like compromising and like so it's a little different, right? You have sponsors, you have shows, but like for consulting, it's like comping a bunch of time and like trying to, hire new people as people randomly quit and give you no notice, which is great. That's not succeeding. That's treading water. And you're not getting anywhere. One of the big things was we had the Alice launch, but then it basically ended up like evaporating into the air in a lot of ways, because the little bit of time I took to do that ended up having negative repercussions for the consulting business. And that's just not recoverable, right? In terms of, once you're in a position of, we have weird situations that happen this year. Like, we had one situation where a new customer signed a contract and then vanished and never paid us, like never started the project. But of course, we acted as though we had the contract because we were like, we put it on the schedule, we prepared to do it, blah, blah, blah. But then we ended up with excess bandwidth. Then we had a situation where a customer paid us for work and disappeared and never gave us a spec sheet. And then 3 months later came back and was like, we need this in 2 weeks.
What do you do? Are you just ruthless? Are you bold? Do you kill shit and fire people and pivot and just take no names?
I mean, the problem is I think I'm not ruthless enough.
That's what I think too. That's exactly what I think too.
Like, I'm much too willing to like take a pay cut and protect jobs, right?
Yeah.
And like, I'll do like Mickey Mouse temporary cuts on people's hours if I have to. If client's unhappy, I'm not willing enough. I'm usually very like, oh, let's work it out. I probably should just say, okay, well, too bad. Contracts, time, and materials. You have no case. Go away. Right. Because I have never seen a case where you recover that. And I've never seen a case where, in the case of like employees, you don't cut their hours for a week and then have them not look for another job.
Yeah, but then again, at the same time, I don't know
business
of a single case of any successful business story that I've heard about, any successful entrepreneur or founder or whoever who isn't just a fucking dick, ruthless asshole.
I mean, I've had a larger realization in the cave on Dagobah that I don't think this model is going to work. Like this hybrid model of half remote, half on site, half consulting, half product. And I was listening to a podcast by the dude from Thoughtbot, and they were having some of the same issues. But one advantage they have is they charge a flat $3,200 a week at least. So they just make a lot more fucking money, right? Like, it's easy when you have a war chest.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But when you're the little guy who really doesn't have a lot of margin on his developers and is kind of struggling.
Yeah, like in podcasting, if you've got a name, you could charge $8,000.
I, for shits and giggles, looked up what an ad on ATP would cost me. It's $5,000 an episode.
Yeah, it's because it's got John Siracusa and Marco Arment on it. Yep.
Right, but that's like...
But you're buying Marco Arment saying that he uses Backblaze.
But my problem is, so are my competitors are doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the unfortunate reality is Thoughtbot is a competitor. And they're kicking my ass. Like, and this is not like Mike's therapy session, but, you know, I came to a smaller market, and I'm doing well down here compared to what it was in New Jersey. But a smaller pond is still a smaller pond, and the fish are a little smaller too, right? It's also so there was so in 2016, like 2015 was a bad year, right? Because I took a pair of heart attacks, had a lot of problems. In 2016, me and a buddy of mine had kind of a wandering in the woods period where we decided that the solution to all our problems was that we were doing fixed bid. And so we should do time and materials. And that as long as it was time and materials, everything would be okay. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
It's only okay if you're dealing with clients who know things should cost money. But like most of them don't. Right? One or two do because they're like technical themselves and they understand, you know, but many of them don't. Many of them, you know, they'll sign a contract and pretend like it was a fixed bid, right? They won't get that you don't have the competency to really estimate their project because you don't know their business, right? It really becomes I mean, I had one guy bounce a giant check on me this year that was unbelievable. But it took a week for that check to get returned. So we did a week of work. I mean, I don't know. We're getting off track here, but the industry seems to have fundamentally changed.
Yeah, I feel like my industry has too. I just posted during the show, which is a sort of a clunky statement. It was a reply I made on YouTube, and I just posted it during the show to Twitter and now to our Discord. And it's essentially why Jupiter Broadcasting is doing less and less video. And it's sort of a well, we tried, we really gave it a go, but to be honest, people who with bigger budgets and larger production capacities outdid us. And then the YouTube world is such that if you're not getting 100,000 views per video, then at 100,000 you're making enough to pay yourself. At 100,000 views per video, you're making enough to pay yourself. And then once you go beyond that, maybe you can pay an editor or a producer, but it's going to get pretty tight. That's the YouTube system. And, you know, the reality is we just don't have the budget to produce content that can bring in those kinds of views. Like, I can get closer. I can do some things. If I wanted to, I could be a real douchebag, and I could do flame bait topics that push on people's emotional buttons and play to their lower instincts. But I just can't bring myself to do it. And so I've decided that the company's got to focus on what it can do better than most people can do, and it's audio productions. And so Linux Action News and TechSnap and a lot of the shows that like User Air that are sort of have launched in 2017 are 100% audio focused, recorded in a multi-track setup, produced in a multi-track way, and annotated and marked for different time codes. And it's a totally different product than when I just decided, hey, you know what I could do is I could do a video stream while I record this audio podcast, which then all of a sudden created this crazy freaking unbalanced dichotomy where it's kind of a video show where we've got visuals and it's kind of an audio show because the majority of people that are actually getting it are listening. And it was this funky balance that really made a lot of our products mediocre, I think. And so it sort of stagnated growth.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, it's a bummer because you've got a lot of momentum and direction and I don't know, energy, whatever you want to say, around a certain direction, and then you get there and you go, oh shit, I should have been doing this the whole time, or at least. And so now it's like, how can I reasonably pivot? How can I reasonably get into this direction that obviously makes more sense? I got a couple ideas, plus I got a couple of things I think you and I should talk about for 2018. Let's take a moment and thank DigitalOcean. And DigitalOcean is one of those sponsors that both Mike and I use to actually get our job done. And it's the perfect sponsor for what we do and what you might possibly want to do. And I wanted to do something a little different for our holiday specials. I wanted to go inside DigitalOcean. This is presented by the Muse, and this is just a quick clip of like what DigitalOcean's like. And I thought this would be kind of a cool way for the holiday special for our spot here, because DigitalOcean is one of the reasons this show has been here, and the fact that you guys go over to DigitalOcean and use our promo code CODERDIGITAL. If it wasn't for them and it wasn't for you, I don't know if we'd be here this far into it at 290, and we're almost to 300, and I wanted to celebrate all of that by going deep, going inside, behind the curtain at DigitalOcean.
And I think that's what generates the excitement. And there's always a lot of challenges that go along with the excitement, and I think that's what generates the excitement. And some of the challenges that we have here that I think are particularly exciting is that we're sort of rewriting the playbook on cloud computing and making it much simpler for developers to use, much easier for them to build really interesting applications, and to do it in a way that enables them to really focus on what they love to do, which is ship great code and not worry about the infrastructure.
We are not only dealing with one interface, which could be the browser or a web app or a mobile application. Engineers work with other infrastructure, with other interfaces as well, with CLIs or APIs. And as a user experience team, we also have to cater to those interfaces. We're not there yet, but that is part of the exciting work that we need to work on.
When it comes to technical decision making on my team, I really like them to be consensus-based. Every engineer should have an input into our decision making because every engineer has value that they add. And it doesn't matter if they're right out of school and just saying, but why is it doing it that way? Because often that is a really insightful thing to say. So different perspectives really help us drive to have a better product. And that's a really important thing to cultivate when you're a manager. The main thing you want to be focusing on is what is best for the software we're making, for our company, and for our customers.
I think generally the skills we look for are teaching above all. People on the team come from a background of teaching or have a love of teaching, and I think that that's one thing that we've learned recently is that's one of the most paramount skills on the team, is someone who not only is excited about their subject matter, but really passionate about sharing it with others.
I do get to leverage a lot of the skills that I learned during my days in academia. As a cloud company, we're collecting huge amounts of data. And so as someone who's inherently interested in statistics and research, I get to apply a lot of my skill set to all the data that we're collecting. And sometimes the sheer volume and the sheer velocity at which it's coming presents like unique challenges that you would never really face in academia. So there's huge opportunities for growth and learning and general education and stuff like that.
DigitalOcean.com and use our promo code CODERDIGITAL. Go spin up some infrastructure in less than a minute and take advantage of their amazing dashboard, their SSD performance, and much more. CODERDIGITAL after you create your account, and you'll get a $10 credit at DigitalOcean.com. So we have a couple of crystal ball things and more. So I don't know. How do we go forward from here after you've decided that everything is bust and nothing works?
So you said you had some ideas. I think we should jump right into that.
All right. Well, so my My ideas have been mostly around how to sort of close the gap between what I thought I was going to do and what I ended up realizing we'd need to focus on and what we're actually good at making. Right? It was a bit of a... It was when we started. It wasn't that we were bad at making videos. It's just that's what the standard was, and you could get away with that. But then, as time went on and more money got involved and more people started taking this seriously, production went up, and all of a sudden we were caught in this weird, crazy middle ground. If we were comparing ourselves to like podcast networks of last generation, like say your Leo Laporte Twits, if you're looking at them, you might go, well, you're not doing too bad. You're doing better than they are. But the reality is that's not nearly good enough. If you want to compete in the audio podcast space, people have 6 or 7 or 8 other really good options for that week. I think most people in our audience probably have at least 5 podcasts they're listening to on average, and some are up in the 10 or more, and some are down in the 1 or 2s. But on average, people listening to our shows probably have about 5 that they're subscribed to. And so when I looked at how do I make a competitive product, do you want to know? Let's just do this. I'll give you. This is the review that I did. That when I listened to this, I went, holy shit! It is so obvious. I have to make this change. I am so fucked. I don't know. I mean, a lot of this comes down to opinion, but I'll give you. Here's the intro to the current version of TechSnap, the one that just came out yesterday as we record. Here's what the intro sounds like. I'll just play like the first 30 seconds or so. So I apologize for show within show, but I think it'll be clear why I'm doing this here in a moment. This is TechSnap, episode 349. Welcome to TechSnap, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly systems, network, and administration podcast. We recorded this episode on December 21st, 2017. It's brought to you by our 3 great sponsors, IX Systems, DigitalOcean, and Ting. I'll tell you more about them as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every week is the presenter, the engineer, and the debugger, Mr. Payne, Mr. Wes Payne. Hello, Wes.
Hello, Chris.
Wes, this is our second TechSnap together. We have some follow-up on the show format itself, but we'll save that for the feedback section.
Yeah, sounds good. There's just too much fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we got to start with a TechSnap classic. Brian Krebs has done one of his famous investigative pieces where he goes behind the scenes on... Okay, and then we go into the show. So that is the first 56 seconds of the new TechSnap. Now I present you with the first 56 seconds of the old TechSnap.
Coming up on this week's episode of TechSnap. We say farewell to Dan, but don't despair, we've still got a ton of great topics to cover. We compare the handling of recent data breaches at Imgur and DJI, and what that means about our trust in their security practices. Plus, we share a bunch of in-depth guides to upgrading your security posture this holiday season, and see Dan off with some of your finest feedback and surely the world's tastiest roundup.
So that long, awkward tease where you could hear Wes breathing and it was just silence is a necessity you have to do if you are going to even dare to ask a video audience to spend more than an hour listening to a show or watching a show. You have to tell them what's coming up. And it always sounds like a sales pitch. It sounds like a disingenuous sales pitch because what you're trying to do is take a week's worth of research and 2 hours worth of recording, and you're trying to summarize it in 28 seconds. And it sounds bad. It doesn't work for an audio, and it's unnecessary in an audio podcast. And then this is 28 seconds in, and I'm already out. And you can see the compromise that was initially made for video. It just right here in the beginning, but it continues.
On this week's episode of TechSnap. Welcome to TechSnap, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly systems, network, and administration podcast. This is episode 347 for November 28th, 2017. This episode is brought to you by our 3 wonderful sponsors, DigitalOcean.
Now you'll notice Wes will take pauses here that when you're listening to it, when you're just listening to it, are awkward. But these are pauses that you have to take because there are visual splashes taking place in the video version of the show. Every time Wes is a sponsor name, there is a motion graphic that comes up on the screen with their logo. And he has to pause in a certain cadence so that way there is time for the graphic to show in the video. But when you're listening, I'm almost done. I know this is arduous, but I'm almost done.
No, keep going.
But when you're listening to it, when you're just listening, which 70% of the audience is just listening, it's very awkward.
Ting and IX Systems. My name is Wes, and joining us one last time is our friend Dan. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Now, Dan, I mean, by the way, this is not a criticism of Wes or Dan. They both did a great job, and this is the constraints that they had to work within. Now, Dan, even though Dan and Wes are both vibrantly aware that about 70 to 80% of the audience is on audio, because they see each other on a video screen, because there are studio lights on, because there is a green screen and a studio camera and a camera switcher, they cannot help but address the camera. Even though the majority, up to possibly 80 to 70% of the audience is on audio, they can't help but talk about it as if it's available for everybody to see.
Hello, Wes. Hello,
Wonderful
audience.
to see you.
And you?
You're looking especially sharp today, may I just say.
This is what I think you're referring to. This
Absolutely.
is a New Zealand swan dry. And
Can you say that one more time for us?
New Zealand swan dry, SWANDRI, maybe 2 N's in it, I'm not sure. But basically, it's a bush shirt. It's all woolen. It has no zippers.
I think you get my point. It is a fractured product. It was a shit product. It wasn't their fault. They inherited a bad product. They inherited a product that didn't have a deep understanding of what its core audience was looking for. And so this is 1 minute and 37 into the show. By 58 seconds into the old TechSnap, we were already talking about Brian Krebs looking into a marketplace to sell users' identities. At this point, we'd already gotten into a major point about the story. And it sounds better, it's less awkward, it's smoother, because we're only thinking about the listening experience. And when you watch it in video, this isn't so bad. But when you listen to it, it's simply not a competitive product. And this was the come to Jesus that I had. And that's why what you say is I had to kill my new baby thing that could be the big success. See, I think what I actually did is that I spent a lot of energy and excitement and time thinking about all of this stuff and building something that is the ideal version, the perfect thing that I could put up on the precipice and say, this is my ideal. And then, of course, because of the compromises that we make in real life and in business, I couldn't actually deliver my ideal product. I never can. I just don't have an unlimited budget, unlimited time, and all of a sudden this huge burst of creativity. But what I could do is I could conceptualize what I would do in a perfect world, learn lessons from that, and then reapply it to our existing products. So that was the lesson that I took away from it was not that I'm killing the baby, not that I'm killing the next generation podcast that's going to bring Jupiter Broadcasting all new levels of Bitcoin. It's more so that I spent time doing sort of a research and development skunkworks lab project, and while it's not quite the big thing that the R&D department came up with, we're still shipping a lot of their time and their effort into the existing product and making them better.
So the question is, what is the ROI on making the existing product better for you?
I'm not sure yet because it takes a lot more of my time, and it is hard for me to really put a dollar amount on that because you could argue my dad likes to tell me that my time is free. So whenever I bitch to my dad, oh God, man, I'm working so much. I'm working 65 hours this week, and I've got another show that I'm doing, and now I'm editing and I'm publishing it. It's just a ton of work. And my dad always says, the thing is, your time is free, and anybody else's time you got to pay for. And he's kind of right, except for that I feel like my time is not free. I feel like time is the most valuable thing I have.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I mean, so this again been part of my year-long adventure here, is that my time is actually not that free. It comes at other costs, like the cost may not be financial.
Sure.
But the costs
time with your kid, time with your relationships,
time with your kids, strain on the family, right? You know, I can't count how many like birthday parties, graduations, things I've missed, right? And this is even like looking beyond the 1 year horizon, looking back years. And in a lot of ways, I haven't really gotten anywhere. I mean, not that I'm in like a destitute position. I'm okay, right? I mean, software developers are by definition.
You moved to Florida,
right? But like, I mean, like progressing the business in a way that makes sense, right?
I don't know. I feel like Alice it does long term make a lot of sense.
Well, but Alice, see, the problem is there's two halves. There's the consulting half and the product half. And the consulting half is in this kind of snake eating its tail cycle of you get a client, you lose a client, you get a client, you lose a client, you get a client, and lose a client may be just that, you know what, they were never going to be a long-term relationship. They just wanted, you know, update our app because our other vendors out of business, right? Like something like that.
Yeah.
There's never an upward growth to that, right? It's just running in a circle, not going anywhere in terms of either growing the business, additional revenue, additional profitability, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I would argue that profitability has actually somewhat gone down.
Yeah.
But it's I think it's an interesting challenge because in a lot of ways, you know, I could argue to you that you should just wait TechSnap out a year. And I have people arguing to me that I'm just impatient, right? Like building processes are going to take, you know, another year. It's going to take a long time.
Yep.
And you're going to lose money. And, you know, it's something that is just going to happen. But that's kind of like a non-actionable argument, if that phrase, if I can use an interesting contortion there, where what you're effectively saying is just wait.
Yes,
right. But you can't wait. Payroll runs every 2 weeks, right? You run your taxes every month because of the way we do things, right? You just can't wait. And, you know, clients aren't going to care that like you're improving quality. They're going to say, well, we're still paying you what we pay you.
Well, the way I make up for that is by writing checks against me. Like I fill in the gaps. Right.
That's what I've been doing. But I've hit the upper bound of what I can personally do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right. And I have like core members of my team basically killing themselves. And it's just not the wins are not building upon themselves, right?
Yeah, that is something you got to measure. I do feel like the changes we've made this year have put Jupiter Broadcasting in a much better position for 2018. Like I feel like we're going into 2018 a lot stronger than we went into 2017.
See, I feel like we're going into 2018 slightly stronger, but in roughly the same position where we have a key customer, and we are basically, you know, if we're going to grow, we're going to lose a lot of money first, which might not be worth it.
Well, yeah, geez, yeah, that is God. I feel more positive going into 2018 than I think I have for like the last 3 years. So
yeah, see, I'm feeling more negative. Well, I mean, I've been pretty negative.
Yeah, but I can see. Yeah, I can understand. I totally understand why. And you know, I know so many ways I'm still rolling the dice by the cancellation of LAS and now the reboot of TechSnap. Like I would have liked to just stabilized out after ending LAS. Like we're still riding that out. Even
I feel like you already took the bet by canceling LAS because LAS must have been your.
That was the big bet. Yeah, TechSnap is the number 2 big bet though. That's the thing. Like if you could make another second bet, it would be TechSnap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough situation, and I think that. You know, I've been talking about continuous integration. Like I feel like I've been telegraphing this sort of issue for most of the year, right? About process. Like I know we got some complaints. So it's always about project management and like, you know, but those are the actual problems that are now like keeping me up at night. And unfortunately, the problems are always expectations, right? The customer expects it to cost X. You have no idea what it should cost really, but you make some educated estimates. And it turns out it costs X, you know, cubed or whatever, right? And that's just what it comes down to. And that may be, well, we're not doing a process that works. Well, they didn't give us all the documentation. In one case, they told us they had source code we could use. They didn't, which was particularly interesting because their other vendor held them hostage. That's more of a one-off sort of weird story. But at the end of the day, like these fundamental problems of project management, of trying to run an agile process, in a market where you have on the low end competitors who are just like in India not paying people anything, they don't have your overhead, or are, you know, basically shops like Thoughtbot, which are so booked that they can't, like, you know, if you call Thoughtbot, they'll tell you, yeah, we'll get to your project in, you know, Q2 2018.
Is that bad? It sounds like they're in demand. It sounds like they're, you know, that's playing hard to get almost.
Well, they're just so booked, right? And they're charging a lot more, but they're hitting a different class of clientele, I think. And you could, I mean, just to be a little reflective here, you could say, well, Thoughtbot is, and I'm using them as an example. I have nothing against them, but they're famous, right?
Sons of bitches.
No, you could say that, well, they made a risky bet like I should be making when Ruby on Rails came out. And because they were the only major consultancy doing Rails, they were able to basically become an integral part of that community. And by the way, they have a lot of pushback. If you look online, people are starting to kind of, as Rails has become more enterprisey and Thoughtbot has, you know, there's nothing worse than an aging hipster, right? There is something to be said for, like, the whole golden MacBook thing in the enterprise doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but
it's true.
It's still true that they have put in their time. They did all those Vim videos. They host all these events. They sponsor all these code camps, these hackathons. They have done the work to get where they wanted to get to. But they don't. How can I put this? If I need to close a sale, I have to go find a client. If Thoughtbot needs to close a sale, oh wait, they don't, right? Because they have a Trello board of people who want to buy from them.
Yeah, the sale comes to them. Yeah.
Right, and that's a significant difference.
Yeah.
And I would bet, and because I know we have other dev shop owners who listen to the show, I would bet that you, like the guy who wanted to talk to me and wants to be on the air, he's trying to solve the same problem I am, right? You might couch it in like, oh, I want to talk about processing. You don't. I get it. But it's in a weird, like, microcosm way, it's almost like the tech market in general, where the bigger players are getting bigger and more powerful. And you remember, I've been doing this for about 12 years now. So it has never been harder to close a sale. And I've never had to sell more for less. Which is, you know.
This is why you should just become a full-time podcaster, because the podcasting market is actually going up.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is. Like, podcasting is actually doing better than it ever has. You should just switch over, launch 3 more shows, dude. You and I will work together, and you just transition.
I actually thought about, like, just becoming like a tech journalist. Like, you know what? I could fucking do this. I mean, come on.
You could, yeah, you could. You've got a lot of background, yeah.
A Republican tech journalist? I mean, come on. It'd be
you and me, we'll launch a new tech show, and we'll sell 3 $5,000 sponsors on it somehow. I don't know. We'll get Marco's advice on that.
Just buy a car. It's a Chevy, not a Tesla. So that, by the way, that shows you the relative ranks of hierarchy in the industry.
Yeah, really, right? Yeah, the Malibu versus the Tesla. Yeah,
like,
the name makes all the difference in the brand world. You know, it really makes all.
Although I have to say, like, I'm not, well, I should be ashamed, but I'm not. 3 a.m. last night, I was basically in a place where I was just like thinking, I could burn this to the ground, get an iMac Pro, and just like do little consulting and be done.
Good for you. As scary as it is in some ways, I think it's also really healthy to just think that out, because, I've been there too. I've been there myself. I've thought, I don't need to deal with all of this. I could just do 2 or 3, maybe at most, shows a week and just run them independently and just go fart around the entire country in my RV while I do podcasts. But the reality is that's, you know, there would just be a whole other set of problems that I can't even conceptualize. When I really think about it, I've invested a lot into this. It's got good momentum. There's certain things that need to be fixed up. The ship has a few leaks, but otherwise it's in pretty good shape. And so that's where but if your ship has more leaks than it does good things about it, I don't think it's crazy to be fantasizing about that. I think it's really healthy because it gives you contrast to think about, to compare where you're at.
Yeah, and that's kind of the decision I'm trying to make, and that's why, to my detriment, I have been super transparent with my guys, because we're just like not performing at the level we need to, and it's not even that like the code we're shipping is crap. I think the code we're shipping is actually like pretty good. Of course, there's always misunderstandings. There's always like, one project that's off track, but it's that we just can't get the freaking sales, and that's a problem. Like that, I have no way to solve that.
Yeah.
That doesn't involve just like I spent, and I did, and I know we're running long, but I think this is a figure because people sometimes email and ask me about sales.
No, it's a holiday extravaganza. Go for it.
$1,000 on ads this year.
Jeez, really? I mean, what did you think was going to happen though? Everybody always says ads don't work. 25,000 is a lot.
I got nothing. Now, that number is a roll-up of an entire marketing budget. That includes, hiring an agency to do the ads, right? So that's the whole project, the entire suite of ads, and the cost of the ads running on Facebook and shit like that. All those automated tweets that people like to bitch about. The sick part was the best performing tweet was one of my stupid Linux adventure ones.
Yeah, of course.
That does nothing for generating leads.
Yeah.
And what happened at the end of that? I went back to the agency and said, listen, I paid you like $25,000 and you didn't like get me a single good lead. What's up with that? They're like, oh, and you still owe us $2,000. I was like, yeah, you're just not getting paid. Go ahead, sue me.
Nice, dude. Like, good for you.
Yeah, it's such a, and this is like where my holiday extravaganza goes to crap, because this is not one of those where I pretend like I don't know the answer and then I give people an answer. I honestly don't know the answer. And I think the answer is something like you have to be in the right place at the right time. You have to do a thought bot and like get in on the ground floor. But you also have to have the stomach and the marketing budget to host those events, to do those things. And I'm with the kid and everything, I just don't. I mean,
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The more constraints you have, the more things you have locking down your flexibility, the less crazy ass things you can do. So if you have, in my case, about a dozen people that are dependent on Jupiter Broadcasting, plus I have my 3 kids, and I have Angela that I want to make sure are taken care of, and then I have myself. And so I am in a lot, and then I have a relationship that I value incredibly high, and so I can't just like go all crazy and like really take off forever because my fiance has a business that she runs here in Washington. She can't just leave with me. So the more tied down you are, the less flexible you are. But at the same time, from constraints comes some of your best innovations. And so if you look at all creative endeavors, sometimes constraints actually lead to your best results. And it's when you have a blank check for anything you want that shit sucks. And so I don't actually inherently think constraints are a bad thing. It's how you view them and what you make out of what you have left that it all comes down to.
No, I think that's a great place to leave it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. And thank you so much for listening to a year of the freaking Coder Radio program. Go check out Mr. Dominic. He's at Dumanuco on Twitter. I'm at ChrisLAS. The whole damn network is at Jupiter Signal. Our live times, jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. Send us some emails. The emails have faded out over the holidays, jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. We love the Twitter engagement, so I'm not saying turn that down either, but we'd love to get more of your emails at the contact page or at the subreddit, coderradio.reddit.com. Mr. Dominic, have a great holiday, have a great New Year's, and best of all of it to you and your family. Have a good one.
Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, and give Jar Jar a present for us, won't you? And thank you everybody so much for tuning this week's episode of the Coder Radio program. I hope all of your holidays and whatnots have gone well for you, and now that we've passed the winter solstice, it's actually just going to get longer, brighter, and the days will just be more productive. See you next week. There we go. Now, you had a title. You actually threw it out there one point in the show, but I forgot what it was. I meant to write it down and I didn't. Do you remember what you said as a title suggestion? How about just exposing all, or Mike exposes all, exposing all? What do you think? I don't hear you. Are you muted? What the fuck, Mr. Dominic? Unmute your microphone and tell me a title. Unmute your microphone and tell me a title. Where do you go? Take a leak? What do you think, John? There you go. What do you think for a title?
Wait.
What do you think?
Well, that's weird. I think the cable's Frank.
You got good time for it to go out.
I was to say Ghosts of Coder's Past or Coder Exposes All. The full Coder,
or Coder Confessions. Coder Confessions or Coder Expose.
Oh, my suggestion was The Last Coder, I think.
You want to go with that? You want to go with that?
I like that.
All right, let's go with Last Coder.
And that'll give people the wrong impression, so they'll be like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah. All right, Mr.
You never
Dominic.
know. I might commit Harry Carey tonight, so. Bye.
Moon's made of cheese. All right, talk to you soon. Have a good one. Have a good couple of weeks. Happy holidays.
Try.
Bye, Z's.
Holidays.
All right, chat room. There you go. Now, in terms of live productions, I'm not sure about the other shows, but we do have a live Unfiltered planned for next week. What? It's true. Yep, we got a live Unfiltered planned for next week, so do tune in for that. Check the calendar for all that shenanigans. I'm not sure about the other shows. Oh yeah, I do know that Ask Noah is going to be live. So you got that. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next week. Have a great holiday. Have a great Festivus, Christmas, etc., etc. Goodbye, everybody.